Chapter 366. We found these two cores by accident. We don't know who made them. Yin Joga wasn't stupid enough to admit she made them. Alright, if you can find more good stuff like this, come find me. We can discuss the price. I still have things to do, so I'll be leaving first. Mingxian sent a message glyph to Yin Joga, then waved his hand and left. Senior brother Yinjiu, you're letting him go just like that? Lu Meier looked at Mingxuan's back unwillingly. She really wanted to stab him. Anyone who broke their secret deserved to die. What if he goes back and blabbers? Lu Tian clenched the bone spear in her hand. Since senior brother Yinjiu didn't want to fight, they could secretly catch up to him and kill him. This Mingxian is not a normal person. If you see him in the future, you better turn around and leave. Yin Joga saw the Lu sisters' faces and told them about Mingxuan's luxurious life. When the Lu sisters heard Mingxuan's body was full of treasures, they showed a pitiful expression. If they could rob a fat sheep like this, they'd be rich. An important character like him would have a divine sense seal placed on him by his elders. It can send back information about his situation before his death. If you don't want to face endless pursuit, you should dispel any thoughts that you shouldn't have, Yin Joga warned. Senior brother Yinjiu, don't worry, we're just thinking about it. We won't do anything stupid. Lu Tian stuck out her tongue and finally gave up. Take this paper crane and the shield. After you get used to using the Overlord flower, go to the middle state and see what's going on. We'll meet up there. Yin Joga still had to go back to Thunder Country, so it wasn't convenient for him to travel with the Lu sisters. Okay, we'll leave as soon as possible. The Lu sisters knew Yin Joga was in a difficult situation at the Yin Corpse sect, so they decided to go to the middle state as soon as possible to avoid wasting her time. Don't rush, safety first. Yin Joga reminded. Although the Lu sisters' strength had increased greatly, and they had Lu Tianer's 9 Hell Dao body to protect them, they still couldn't let their guard down. Senior brother Yinjiu, don't worry. We value our lives. Oh right, can you help me see if this soul shock grass has sprouted? Lu Tian took out the small flower pot. The color of the red soil inside was even darker. Other than the frightened human face, the soul shock grass also had a little neck. How did you use it so fast? Yin Joga looked up at Lu Tianer. If this continued, her netherworld Dao physique would soon be transferred to the soul-shocking grass. Just 2 or 3 times. Lu Tianer couldn't wait to get rid of her damned physique as soon as possible, so she used it unscrupulously. Although this flower pot can be used 98 more times, you should take it easy. Yin Joga reminded. Don't worry, senior brother. I know what I'm doing. Lu Tianer put away the small flower pot with a nonchalant expression. It is getting late. I will be heading back first. You fellows should not stay in that cave anymore. Find a safer place. Yin Joga was worried that Wanli Mingxian would come looking for them. Yes, the Lu sisters were very experienced in escaping. They had no less than 5 or 6 residences, so there was no need for Yin Joga to worry. After Yin Joga bid farewell to the 2 sisters, he returned to the Yin Corpse sect and spent a few days preparing before informing Jin Chuan that he was going into seclusion. Although Jin Chuan was still cold and indifferent, he still recorded the words seclusion on the disciple register for her. Just like that, Yin Joga secretly left the Yin Corpse sect and headed towards Thunder Country. 7 days later, at the entrance of Thunder Country's Shangjing City, Yin Joga covered his corpse-poisoned face and disguised himself as a handsome young master. He waved his fan and walked into the city, heading straight to the entrance of the Yun Mansion. The majestic black board was still hanging high above, and the 2 words, Yun Mansion, shone brightly. Do you plan to swagger in like this to find Mother Qing? Zishang stood beside Yin Joga and asked. I'm not that stupid. Yin Joga came back this time to take a look. If he had nothing to do, he would secretly leave a letter for Mother Qing before going to find Yu. At this moment, the door of the Yin Mansion creaked. A little over 7 years old, wearing a golden crown and a brocade robe, with a round head and chubby head, walked out from inside with his head held high. Behind him was a large group of servants, and Pearl was among them. She was carrying a heavy food container as she followed behind the group. Her expression was haggard, and her eyebrows were full of worry. She was not as carefree as she was when Yin Joga was around. She was cute, and she was wearing the green robe of a third-rank servant girl. Walk faster. If you disturb the young master's show, I'll teach you a lesson. A tall and skinny servant girl beside the little fatty turned around and scolded Pearl impatiently. Yes. Pearl nodded and quickened her pace. Such a clumsy person is not fit to serve me. The little fatty pouted unhappily. Young master, please bear with it for now. No matter what, Pearl is a servant left behind by Mother Qing. You can't do anything to her now, but when you have the chance, you must send her far away. The short and fat servant girl advised in a low voice. That Mother Qing is just a servant. She really thinks she's half the owner of the Yun mansion. She's always pointing fingers at my father. I'll kill her one day. The little fatty's round face flashed with a fierce light. It was obvious that he was not joking. Young master, there's no need to bother with the servant. Just bear with it. The short and fat servant girl coaxed the little fatty into the Yun mansion's gorgeous carriage. Then, she arranged for the other servants to get on. Pearl was scolded by her again. Finally, she was shoved together with a group of rough servant girls. Yin Joga's face suddenly sank. He never expected to see such a scene. He didn't know where this little fatty came from. He dared to call Mother Qing a servant in the Yun mansion. He even used her personal servant girl, Pearl, as a lowly servant. How dare he? It seems that someone has taken over the Yun mansion. Zishang looked like he was watching a good show. The human race was interesting. I'd like to see how firmly he can take over. Yin Joga originally planned to sneak in to find Mother Qing at night, but she couldn't wait any longer. Most of the servants in the Yun mansion were ordinary people. She directly hid her figure and walked in with Zishang. After not seeing each other for more than 2 years, there were many servants in the Yun mansion. It was crowded, but Yin Joga didn't recognize many of them. The strangest thing was that the few large courtyards in the backyard all had masters. They were all beautiful women. They considered themselves to be half the owners of the Yun mansion. If she hadn't confirmed that Yi Yuxuan was dead, she would have thought that he had taken in a few more concubines. Her purple forest park was still empty. It was just that the servants inside had been changed. At this time, there were only 2 little servant girls and a skinny mother sitting in the courtyard. They all looked lazy. The corners of the courtyard were covered in dust, and no one cleaned them. Yin Joga walked into the remote Mother Qing's room. The bed and quilt inside were all ready. It was just that there was a lot of dust. It seemed that no one had lived here for a long time. What happened in the Yun mansion when she wasn't here? Chapter 367. What are you doing? There's so much dust in the yard and no one cleans it. Let's see how you explain this to eldest miss when she comes back. A familiar voice sounded in the yard. Yin Joga stood outside the window and saw it was Yu Dai. The little girl had grown into a slender and elegant young lady. She wore an old green robe and looked extremely beautiful. She was already at Body Refinement Realm Level 9. You're being wronged, Miss Yudi. We clean the yard every day, but we only have so many people. We have to go out and help the people in sprinkling yard from time to time. We really can't take care of it all, the skinny mother complained. That's right, eldest miss hasn't come back in 2 years. Who knows when she'll come back? It's useless even if she comes back. This Yin manor already belongs to eldest young master. The 2 servant girls also muttered. What nonsense are you saying? Yin manor will always belong to our eldest Mississippi. Yu Dai was so angry her face turned red. The 2 servant girls immediately didn't dare to say anything. Miss Yu Dai, why are you showing off in front of us? If you have the ability, go talk to eldest young master. The skinny woman wasn't afraid of Yu Dai. She took out a handkerchief and fanned her face while saying coldly, but I don't think you dare go. Eldest young master has already given you to the Hu clan. You can only stay here for 2 more days. I advise you to mind your own business. Think about how to get a foothold in the Hu clan. That family isn't easy to get along with. Yu Dai's face turned green and white, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she picked up a broom and started cleaning. The skinny woman grabbed a handful of melon seeds and started munching on them. The shell of the melon seeds fell to the ground. Clearly, She wanted to make things difficult for you, Dai. Yin Juga's face darkened. She didn't think that in the 2 years she left, Yun Manor would be occupied by a group of outsiders. Moreover, he bullied her people so blatantly, as if she was dead. Should we kill these bastards? Zishang suggested out of goodwill, when he sensed Yin Juga's anger. Yin Juga calmed down instead. No rush. Let me figure things out first. Before she left, she had asked Wan Xiang and Bai Songling to look after Yun Manor. With their temperament, they shouldn't be watching Mother Qing, and the others get bullied. There must be another reason. Yin Juga quietly left Yun Manor and came to Wan Xiang's residence. There was a musty smell when he opened the door. The room was empty and dusty. She went out to ask around and found out that Wan Xiang had already left Thunder Country to travel around the various countries. Bai Songling returned to the Bai family and became a general, responsible for guarding the border. However, what shocked her the most was that the one who ascended the throne was actually noble consort Shi, with the title of Empress Shi. The former crown prince, Dongfang Ke, went to the Purple Cloud sect and became the last disciple of the Golden Core elder, Yuan Hua. The status of the emperor of a small country was naturally not comparable to that of the last disciple of a Jindan stage elder. Yin Jioga should be happy for Dongfang Ke's grand plans, but when she thought of the messy Yin family, she could not bring herself to be happy. At night, she finally found out Mother Qing's whereabouts. It turned out that Empress, she had brought her into the palace to recuperate. Shall we go in and have a look? Zishang asked. There are experts in the palace. I can't get in. The imperial palace was not like the residence of Yin. There were still a few experts. Her shallow invisibility skills were useless. I'm here, what's there to be afraid of? Zishang glanced sideways at her. Then I'll rely on you. This was what Yin Jioga was waiting for. Zishang drew an invisibility talisman for Yin Jioga. He took her to avoid the imperial dragon Qi and sneaked into the back palace. Mother Qing was placed in the side hall of Jinxiu Palace. 2 palace maids were in charge of serving and guarding her. At this moment, the 2 palace maids were chatting and laughing as they embroidered pouches under the window. Mother Qing sat at the side in a daze. Her complexion looked good, and her clothes were clean. She did not look like she had been mistreated. Yin Jioga blew into the room. The 2 palace maids' eyes rolled back, and they softly fell to the ground. Who? Mother Qing turned her head, her sunken eyes revealing a fierce glint. It's me. Yin Jioga appeared in front of Mother Qing. Eldest Miss. Although Yin Jioga had disguised herself as a man, Mother Qing still recognized her at a glance. She immediately stood up in excitement. What exactly happened in the residence? Who are those people who moved in? Yin Jioga sat down on a chair. Mother Qing sighed and said, They are people from the side branch of the Yin family. There were still a few cousins in the old master's generation, and they had been obediently guarding the ancestral hall in the village all these years. After Empress she ascended to the throne, she said that eldest miss was a girl and did not have any children. Thus, she personally ordered Yun Yinbin, who was from the side branch of the Yun family, to come over to support the facade. Empress she. Yin Jioga's eyes darkened. Something as important as adopting a son hadn't even been approved by her. But Empress she had hurriedly helped her. She was deliberately supporting a puppet to dominate the Yin family's assets. Eldest miss, this old servant is useless. I couldn't help you guard the family well. Mother Qing's tears flowed down her face. When Yun Yanbin had first arrived, he had been well educated and reasonable. He had also been very respectful to the old servants. After gaining power, he had married a few wives and concubines, supported them, and interfered in the management of the backyard. He had found all kinds of excuses to get the old servants out. Even Elder Hua had been sent elsewhere. You don't have to blame yourself. It's not your fault. No matter how much she respected Mother Qing, she was just a servant. It was impossible for her to withstand the pressure of Empress Shi. Eldest miss, what should we do now? Mother Qing asked with a frown. Yin Yinbin's surname was Yin too. It wouldn't be easy to get him out. You don't have to worry about this. Have a good rest. Don't tell anyone that I was here, lest we alert the enemy, Yin Jioga instructed. Yes, I understand. Mother Qing nodded repeatedly. Yin Jioge left the side hall of Jinxiu Palace and looked at the Palace of Heavenly Purity from afar. That was Empress Shi's residence. What do you plan to do? Zishang asked. When Yin Jioge was treating Empress Shi and expelling the poison, he didn't have enough demonic power to transform. Although he was either sleeping or cultivating in the imprint most of the time, he knew that Yin Jioge and Empress Shi had a good relationship. Since she's heartless, don't blame me for being unjust, Yin Jioge said coldly. In the imperial study of the Palace of Heavenly Purity, the palace lanterns were hung high. Empress Shi was wearing a dragon crown with 9 pearls and a bright yellow dragon robe. She was examining the memorials. Nanny Zhou was no longer beside her. There was only Aunt Hong Xiao. Your Majesty, it's late. Please take a rest. Aunt Hong Xiao said carefully. Okay, rest. Empress Shi put down the memorials in her hands, pinched her brows, and walked toward her bedroom. Yin Jioge stood in the shadows and looked at the sharp and domineering Empress Shi. She had the elegance of a great empress, and she felt extremely unfamiliar. The woman who held her hand and called her Jioge in the courtyard of the Prince of Dongling Palace would never return. Chapter 368. Yin Jioge watched as Empress Shi walked into her bedroom. Aren't you going to settle the score with her? Zishang's handsome face flickered in the shadows. Only his gray eyes were focused on Yin Jioge. It's useless. She's not the only one who wants to take over the Yin family. Yin Jioge looked sad. So what if she killed Empress Shi? As long as she wasn't guarding the Yin family, the next empress would do the same. She couldn't change the fact that greed clouded people's minds. If that's the case, why don't you dissolve the Yin family and let your people have a good home? Zishang said softly. Yin Jioge would go further in the future. There was no need to keep these things holding her back. Yin Jioge was a little stunned. Mother Qing and Elder Hua had been bullied by Yi Yuxuan when they were with their mother. Then she was bullied by Empress Shi again. She had been suffering with the Yin family for most of her life. You're right. After Mother Qing and the others are settled, let them do whatever they want. She had already taken away all the valuable things in the Yin family. What was left was just the old house and some shops. The silver was worthless in her eyes. It didn't matter if they were given to the side branches of the Yin family. It's not suitable for you to do this. Why don't you go to Yi Yu? Aren't you going to give Yi Yunji to him? Zishang said patiently. Yin Jioge nodded. You're right. Let's go. After leaving the palace, Yin Jioge and Zishang went to the shadowland of the Yi family. The sky was bright. Golden sunlight shone on the mountaintop. The empty valley in front of them was silent. There were rows of tombstones on the desolate yellow slope. The tombstones at the top were the ancestors of the Yi family. At the bottom was a row of new tombstones. They were the tombstones left behind after the Yi family was exterminated. The Shadowland was under the tombstones of the ancestors. Yin Jioge followed the clues left by Yi Yu and walked to the tallest tombstone in the middle. Excuse me. Yin Jioge cupped her hands and bowed. Then she grabbed the tombstone and twisted it 3 times. With a soft hum, the ground beneath her feet became empty, and she fell straight down. Zishang followed unhurriedly. They landed in an empty cave with Yin Jioge in his arms. Above the cave was a row of stalactites that emitted a beautiful light. There was a pitch-black hole in front of him. It looked like the gaping mouth of a monster, and a gust of cold wind blew out of it. This place is interesting. Zishang glanced at the cave entrance and pulled Yin Jioge's hand. Jioge. Yin. Is there a need to be so serious? She was going to see her little friend Yi Yu. It was not like she was going to enter some deadly zone. So what danger could there be? There's nothing wrong with being cautious. Zishang gripped Yin Jioge's hand tightly and refused to let go. All right. Yin Jioge stopped resisting and followed Zishang into the pitch-black cave. Yin Jioge was drowned in darkness the moment he took a step inside. There was no sound at all. It was as if he had been deprived of his sense of sight and smell. If not for the warmth coming from the purple deceased sword, Yin Jioge would not have known where he was. The Shadowland is so well hidden. Why didn't the Yi family escape here when they were exterminated? Yin Jioge asked Zishang, but she found her voice swallowed by the darkness. She squeezed Zishang's hand and tried to send a voice transmission to him. But she found her 5 senses were sealed. She couldn't even send a voice transmission. This was too strange. Yin Juga stopped and reached for her storage bag. She wanted to take out a bone spear to protect herself. But she found that she had lost contact with the storage bag. It felt like she was a blind ghost. She couldn't touch anything. She couldn't see anything. It made her tremble from the bottom of her heart. Yin Juga panicked. She tugged at Zishang's hand and asked him to take her away from this place. She didn't expect Zishang to let go of her hand. Sounds of fighting could be heard in the darkness. Zishang, where are you? Yin Juga waved her hands to help. But she couldn't touch anything. Fortunately, not long after, Zishang took her hand again and walked outside. When the light from the stalactite entered Yin Juga's eyes, she was so excited that she almost cried. What kind of place is this Shadowland? Yin Juga turned to look at Zishang. She saw that he was carrying someone on his shoulder. His hair was messy. His clothes were old and tattered. His body was as thin as a stick. It looked like he could be blown away by a gust of wind. Yin Juga moved the person's messy hair aside and saw a pale face. Although his cheeks were thin, his facial features were still very beautiful. The most eye-catching feature was a red mole between his eyebrows. It was Yiyu. How did he become like this? Yin Juga was shocked. He's been in there for too long. His body is too weak. Let him rest for a while. Zishang threw Yiyu to the ground. Be gentle. Yin Juga was afraid that Yiyu would fall apart. She quickly squatted down to examine him. She found that Yiyu had reached the cultivation level of a spirit master. However, his body condition was terrible. Not only was he severely dehydrated, but he also showed signs of malnutrition. Although foundation-building cultivators could not eat, not eating for a long time was still a huge burden on the body. Yin Juga took out a few bottles of blood-replenishing pills from his storage bag and poured them into Yiyu's mouth. Yiyu's throat moved and he swallowed them all. However, there were still no signs of him waking up. His body is fine. Why won't he wake up? Yin Juga checked Yiyu's pulse again. He confirmed that his body had completely recovered under the nourishment of the pills. He should wake up soon. His consciousness is sealed. If we want to wake him up, we have to wake him up. Zishang said. Then what do we do? Yin Juga thought of the dark and gloomy place where all 5 senses were sealed. It was enough to drive a person crazy. Use the blood relationship to wake him up. Zishang's answer was simple and powerful. But Yi Yunji has already become a zombie. She was already dead. Was blood relationship still useful? Yes. Yi Yunji's biggest obsession is to protect her brother. If you take her out, she will naturally know what to do. Zishang said with certainty. All right. Now that things had come to this, they could only try. Yin Juga released Yi Yunji from the corpse refinement bag. The white-haired and ugly Yi Yunji, dressed in a black dress, stood quietly in front of them. Whether Yi can wake up or not depends on you. Yin Juga said. Yi Yunji's expression was wooden. Her eyes were empty. There was no reaction. Yin Juga tried to place Yi Yunji's right hand on Yiyu's forehead. The seal on Yi Yunji's arm was unlocked. The great Yin spirit chi slowly entered Yiyu's forehead from her fingers. Yiyu frowned in his coma. The veins on his temples bulged. He looked like he was in great pain. Yin Juga was extremely nervous. He asked Zishang, will something happen? What's the rush? Zishang's calm demeanor finally calmed Yin Juga down. A moment later, a light lullaby suddenly came from Yi Yunji's stomach. The song was melodious, like a mother's soft murmur. Chapter 369. When Yiyu heard the song, his furrowed brows gradually relaxed, and his expression became peaceful. How can she sing? Yin Juga looked at Yi Yunji in shock. Wasn't her soul destroyed? She's a zombie. What's so strange about her singing? Some powerful zombies can even use sound wave attacks to kill without leaving a trace, Zishang said calmly. All right. Yin Juga admitted that she was being too surprised. She lowered her head to observe Yiyu's pale face. After a while, she looked up and asked Zishang. Yi Yunji has a Yin physique. Is Yiyu the same? No, he just has a pure martial practitioner physique. Zishang shook his head. That's good. Yin Juga sighed. In the past, she thought that people with special physiques were lucky. Now she knew that treasuring a jade ring was a crime. If one couldn't protect themselves, they would only become meat on the chopping board of the strong. The Lu sisters and Yi Yunji were living examples. Yi Yunji's singing gradually stopped. Yi Yu's eyelashes began to tremble. His eyeballs rolled under his eyelids before he slowly opened his eyes. You're awake. How do you feel? Yin Joga asked with concern. Who are you? She didn't expect Yi Yu to look at her with vigilance. It's only been 2 years, and you've completely forgotten about me? Yin Joga's voice returned to normal. She couldn't do anything about her appearance. The illusion grass was too powerful. No matter how she disguised herself, she still looked like a man. Young miss. Yi Yu's voice was still hesitant. It seemed that he still didn't believe her. After all, the handsome young man in front of him didn't look like a woman at all. You don't believe me, but you should believe him. Yin Joga pointed at Zishang, who was leaning against the tree and acting cool. Although Zishang was still in his gray hair and eyes, his powerful aura was unparalleled. Yi Yu was completely relieved. He smiled at Yin Joga and said, I didn't expect you to come back so soon. 2 years. I think you've been living too long. Thinking of this, Yin Joga hurriedly asked, what the hell is that Shadowland? You almost died there. It's a sacred place for cultivation in our tribe. Yi Yu scratched his head and said somewhat embarrassedly, however, only after becoming a spirit master can one enter to cultivate. It has already been 50 years since anyone from our clan has entered. You're really not afraid of death. Yin Joga remembered that when they separated, Yi Yu was only an intermediate spiritualist, which was equivalent to the 5th stage of Qi refinement. At that time, he dared to enter the trial ground for Foundation establishment cultivators. The ignorant are truly fearless. I didn't expect the Shadowlands to be so powerful. Yi Yu also felt a little scared. Not long after he entered the Shadowland, he gradually lost his 5 senses and consciousness. In the end, he couldn't even leave, and could only hold on inside. It was also his good luck that he managed to hold on until his savior arrived. If Yin Joga had come a year later, he would probably only be able to collect his corpse. No matter how powerful a Foundation establishment cultivator was, it was impossible for him to abstain from eating for 3 years. If there's a next time, I'll see who's going to save you. Yin Joga cursed. Yi Yu smiled in embarrassment and changed the topic. No matter what, I'm already a spirit master, so I should be able to go to the Yin Corpse sect. There's no need to go. Your sister has already passed away, and was buried in a sea of flowers. Before she died, she told me to give this Yin corpse to you. Yin Joga called over Yi Yunji, who was silently guarding him. A sea of flowers. Yi Yu didn't feel the pain and excitement that Yin Joga imagined. He just stared blankly at the ugly Yin corpse with a head full of white hair. That's right. Yin Joga carefully looked at Yi Yu. Could it be that he discovered something? Just now, I dreamt that my sister came to say goodbye to me. She left very peacefully, and told me not to be sad for her, and to live a good life. Yi Yu revealed a smile. He didn't mind the ugly appearance of the Yin corpse in front of him. Instead, he very gently stroked her white hair and said softly, in the future, I'll call you Xiaoji. Yin Joga let out a sigh of relief, and handed him the corpse refining bag. In the future, treat her well, and she will protect you for a lifetime. Many thanks. Yi Yu took the corpse refining bag, and put Xiaoji in according to Yin Joga's instructions. When you're better, help me do something. Help Mother Qing, Zhenju Yudi and Old Hua. Yin Joga simply explained the current situation. You want to disband the Yin family? Yi Yu was shocked. Wherever I am, the Yin family will be there. Now that it only exists in name, it's better to disband it, so they don't have to think about it anymore. Yin Joga made her decision. Yi Yuxuan and the others were dead. Yi Rui had left, and her grandfather was still missing. Her grudges in the Thunder Country had already disappeared, so this was it. All right, I'll definitely help you. Yi Yu solemnly nodded. You'll be free from now on. The contract she signed with Yi Yu before was now invalid. I've always been free. Yi Yu smiled. The young miss had never ordered him to do anything, so he was indeed very free. That's good. Live the life you want from now on. Yin Jyoga replied with a smile. I won't be saying goodbye to them. Tell them to take care of themselves for me. There was no need to scare them in her current state. I will. Yi Yu nodded again. Goodbye. Yin Jyoga waved her hand and went on her way in a carefree manner. She still had a long way to go. As long as Yi Yu and the others continued to cultivate, they would have a chance to meet again. Yi Yu looked at Yin Jyoga's gradually disappearing figure, but he didn't feel sad at all. Although the young miss didn't need him now, he wouldn't slack off. He had to continue cultivating. I'll go to the 100,000 mountains to find Luo Tian and Juni Chen. I wonder how they're doing now. But before that, I still have to complete the task that the young miss gave me. Yi Yu's return to Shangjing as a spirit master shocked the entire Thunder Country. Although there were a few spirit masters in the Thunder Country, they were all old men and women. There weren't many as young as him, so he definitely had a bright future. Empress She also sent someone to contact him. She wanted to meet him in person and try to rope him in. Yi Yu only sent a sentence to Empress She. I'm not interested in people who bite the hand that feeds them and burn their bridges. Empress She didn't dare to say anything. Not long after, Mother Qing disappeared from the palace and appeared in her hometown in Suzhou, thousands of miles away. She was conferred the title of matriarch by her niece and nephew. Elder Hua, who was patrolling the shops outside, officially resigned from his position as the old butler of the Yin family. He established a small martial arts school in his hometown and took in a few good disciples. Yu Dai originally wanted to marry Yu Dai as a concubine, but she said she couldn't match her status. She personally came to apologize and return the slave contract. Yu Dai tore the slave contract and found a small shop in Alchemy City with Hua Dai's spirit tablet. She started a medicine business, specializing in bone-opening medicine. Her business grew bigger and bigger. Jinju got rid of her slave status and returned to her hometown. She married her childhood sweetheart and bought a dozen acres of fertile land, becoming a local tycoon. When Mother Qing and the others were properly settled, Yin Jyoga had already set off for the Central Plains. Chapter 370. Yin Jyoga sped along the way, traversing mountains and ridges. Finally, after 5 days, he arrived at the middle ground. She still maintained the appearance of a young man, with the sword pellet that Bailey Moyen had given her hanging on her waist, and a spirit sword on her back. She completely looked like a young sword cultivator who had descended to the mortal world to gain experience. The Central Plains did not have many things, but it had the most robberies. A newbie like Yin Jyoga was simply a fat sheep sent to their doorstep. Unfortunately, this little fat sheep had a ferocious shepherd, and all the robbers were killed by Zishang. TSK another pauper. Yin Jyoga killed off the 38th robber. After checking the storage pouch, he shook his head in disappointment. Aren't you satisfied that you picked it up for free? Zishang flicked Yin Jyoga's forehead. Yin Jyoga rubbed his head indifferently and headed towards the Central State East Pavilion. After she had written to the Lu sisters this morning, they had decided to meet at the Tongfu Inn in the Eastern Square. The East Square room was very majestic and imposing. The gray walls stretched for a few miles, and there were golden core cultivators standing guard on top of the walls. From time to time, their auras would sweep across the entire room, warning those who wanted to cause trouble to be careful. There were also 2 teams of soldiers standing guard at the tall city gate. They were both at the 5th level of Qi disciple. Regardless of cultivation level, everyone who entered the square had to pay a spirit jade as a fee. Even foundation establishment cultivators were no exception. Yin Jyoga handed over a piece of spirit jade, and the city guard let her in. The streets inside were bustling with people coming and going. One of them wore a black cloak, and it was obvious that he was a cultivator from an evil sect. There were also decent people who carried spirit swords or talismans on their backs. The shops on both sides of the street were also selling a complete range of items. Spirit pills, Een pills, spirit artifacts, Dharma artifacts, evil artifacts. There was everything one could think of. Yin Jyoga was dazzled by the variety. She looked around as she walked. When she passed by a talisman embroidery shop, She went in and bought a set of 3 black cloaks. This cloak was embroidered with the talisman markings of chi restraining, illusion, and spirit concealment. Not only was it able to conceal one's appearance and figure when worn, it was also able to conceal one's true cultivation. 20 spirit stones for one was not cheap. Yin Joga rolled up her sleeves and haggled for a long time. She only managed to reduce the price to 15 spirit stones per item. It was so expensive that she felt her heart ache. But no matter how expensive it was, he had to buy it. After all, Zishang only knew how to carve and not embroider. He even despised the idea that only women were good at embroidery. By the time she arrived at Tongfu Inn, the sky was already dark, but the Lu sisters hadn't arrived yet. How much is the accommodation? Yin Joga asked the stout innkeeper. 3 spirit stones per night for the upper room, 2 spirit stones for the middle room, and 1 spirit stone for the lower room. The short and fat shopkeeper said without raising his head, while counting the golden abacus in his hand. So expensive? Yin Joga frowned. Along the way, she had also stayed in inns, and the best room was only 500 spirit jades a night. However, the superior room here was actually 3,000 spirit jades. This was daylight robbery. Dear customer, our superior room here is very rich in spirit chi, which is very convenient for cultivation. Moreover, recently our central continent has been very short on housing, and now there are only a few rooms left. If you don't hurry up and book a room, I'm afraid there won't be any room left. The innkeeper raised his head and looked at Yin Joga, revealing a meaningful smile. It is very dangerous for us in the central state not to stay in an inn at night. Yin Joga was not afraid of danger, but she was afraid of missing the Lu sisters. However, there were indeed many people in this inn, and the lobby downstairs was basically full. Alright, give me a middle room. Fortunately, she had robbed quite a few people on her way here, or else she really couldn't afford to stay here. Alright, a middle room. Dear customer, do you want to eat downstairs or in the guest room? Our inn's spiritual cuisine is also very good. The innkeeper's attitude was much warmer. Downstairs then. Yin Joga's gaze swept across the crowded lobby. This was a good place to obtain information. Alright, little Lin, take this customer to the 7th middle room. The innkeeper gave Yin Joga a token, and had the inn's waiter take her upstairs. This middle room was quite spacious, and the furnishings were very clean and tidy. There were even a few water spirit flowers in the corner, and the faint spirit chi in the air was not bad. However, it was not good for cultivation. Yin Joga was not in a hurry to go downstairs. Instead, she sent a message to the Lu sisters, saying that she was staying in the 7th middle room. The Lu sisters quickly replied, saying that they would be back in an hour. Yin Joga put down the communication talisman and asked Zishang, who was sitting at the table drinking tea, "Are there any dangerous people in this inn?" "For a small shrimp like you, every one of them is dangerous," Zishang said plainly. It wasn't that he looked down on Yin Joga, but chi refinement cultivators like her who came out alone had all died on the way. "Don't I have you?" Yin Joga giggled and hugged Zishang's shoulder. During this period of time, Zishang's personality had changed, and he no longer flirted with Yin Joga. His personality was much more mature, and Yin Joga began to call him brother. She was getting more and more used to her identity as a man. There are many foundation establishment cultivators downstairs, and they have a few chi refinement disciples with them. Take a closer look later, you might be able to see something. Zishang put down his teacup and began to advise Yin Joga. "I'll go down now." Yin Joga was instantly interested. The lobby was almost full, and Yin Joga finally found a corner with great difficulty. The moment he sat down, a middle-aged foundation establishment cultivator with a long sword on his back and 3 strands of beard on his chin walked over and asked, "Little brother, is there someone sitting here?" "No, please take a seat, senior." Yin Joga replied politely, but his heart was on guard. In this world where the one with the biggest fist had the final say, cultivation represented everything. Foundation establishment cultivators had always looked down on chi refinement disciples, and their tone was either condescending or bossy. There were no exceptions. It was really unusual for this middle-aged man to be so polite to him. "My surname is Lin." May I know your surname, little brother? The middle-aged swordsman asked while stroking his beard. My surname is Yin. Yin Joga replied simply. Seeing that you have a long sword on your back, I see that you're also a fellow Taoist. The middle-aged swordsman and Yin Joga exchanged a few words, and then pretended to ask casually. The rent here isn't cheap. It's a bit of a waste for little brother to live alone. I have 2 friends who will come over later, Yin Joga said. Oh, are they also sword cultivators? No. Yin Joga shook his head. Little brother, don't be nervous. I mean no harm. It's just that when we're outside, we must unite as fellow Taoists. The middle-aged swordsman said a bunch of nonsense again, and then got to the point. I have an errand here that requires Qi refinement disciples' help. I wonder if little brother is interested. Oh, what errand is it? Yin Joga raised his eyebrows and asked. Do you see those Qi refinement cultivators? The swordsman in the middle signaled Yin Joga to look at the lobby with his eyes. Here comes the meat show. Yin Joga perked up and quickly asked. I see them. I didn't expect so many seniors to bring their juniors here to cultivate. Is there something special happening here? Chapter 371. Little brother, you are indeed smart. Actually, we found a ruin near the middle continent, but only Qi refinement stage cultivators can enter. Are you interested in working with us? The middle-aged cultivator asked. Middle continent ruins? Yin Joga's pupil shrank. He didn't know if this ruin was the same as the one the Lu sisters were talking about. If it was the same mystic realm, then wouldn't they have come here for nothing? Little brother, you've heard of the middle continent ruins? The middle-aged sword cultivator raised his eyebrows. No, I just feel that it's a little strange. Since this ruin is so important, why didn't the cultivators of the Middle Continent Alliance come out to organize it? Instead, they sent us rogue cultivators? The Middle Continent was a fat piece of meat that was split between the righteous and evil sections. Naturally, the Middle Continent Alliance also sent people out. However, this ruin is too big. They can't take all of it, so they let us take advantage of it. I still have a few spots here. If you are interested, I can sign a contract with you. You just have to split the loot with me. The middle-aged cultivator said patiently. I'll have to discuss this with my companions, Yin Joga said with a troubled expression. All right, then I'll wait for your good news. The middle-aged sword cultivator left a communication talisman and left. Yin Joga kept the talisman. He didn't want to stay any longer, so he went upstairs and returned to the house. How did this ruin become known to everyone? Yin Joga was very annoyed. We'll know when those 2 girls come back. Zishang wasn't in a hurry. Yin Joga looked at the time. It wasn't long now. A moment later, there was a knock on the door. Who is it? Yin Joga asked. It's me. Lu Meier's voice sounded. Yin Joga opened the door and was instantly shocked. He saw 2 dark-skinned, pockmarked, squinting eyes, bulbous noses, sausage mouths, and skinny women standing at the door. They were so ugly that it would make one nauseous. They were the Lu sisters. However, what surprised Yin Joga the most was the handsome man in black standing behind them. It was actually Wanli Mingxian. How did you guys end up together? Yin Joga cried out. Junior brother Yin Jiao, you've misunderstood. There's nothing going on between me and junior sister Lu. Wanli Mingxian hurriedly waved his hand. Even though he was an evil cultivator, he still cared about his reputation. Senior brother Wanli doesn't like us small fries. Lu Tianer touched the pockmarks on her face and winked at Wanli Mingxian. The falling flowers yearn for love, but the heartless brook is heartless. Lu Meier pouted. She seemed to be very familiar with Wanli Mingxian. Indeed, a woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. Who could have guessed that a dozen or so days ago, the 2 sisters had looked like they could not wait to kill Wanli Mingxian. Junior sister Lu really likes to joke. Wanli Mingxian displayed a very reserved appearance in the face of the Lu sisters' teasing. Let's talk inside. Yin Joga waved his hand. After the 2 sisters entered the house, they sat in front of Wanli Mingxian and told him how they met. It turned out that when the 2 sisters came over, they accidentally provoked a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator. When they were fleeing for their lives, Wanli Mingxian had saved them. Only then did they travel together. It's all thanks to senior brother Wanli's care. It saved us a lot of trouble. The Lu sisters said with a serious expression. Junior sister Lu is too kind. Wanli Mingxian shook his head. We'll talk about this later. Have you heard about the Middle Continent ruins? Yin Jioge told them about how he was recruited downstairs. Then, he placed the communication talisman left behind by the middle-aged cultivator on the table, and said, "There must be something fishy about this." Not long after we arrived at the Middle Continent, we heard that the ruins had already been discovered. The Middle Continent Alliance gathered many Foundation establishment cultivators and gave each of them 3 spots. They required at least 3 Qi condensation cultivators to be allowed to enter the secret realm. Senior brother Wanli has already received the token. When the Lu sisters found out about this, they were also dumbfounded. Fortunately, Wanli Mingxian was there. Otherwise, they would have to return empty-handed. 3 years ago, I heard that the Middle Continent ruins would be open this year. Junior sister Lu's father also received the news at that time. It's very likely that the Middle Continent Alliance had already started making arrangements 3 years ago. Wanli Mingxian also analyzed the situation. Yin Jioge's fingers could not help but lightly tap the table. It was very obvious that the news of the ruins had been deliberately released by the Middle Continent Alliance. Why did they need so many Foundation establishment cultivators and Qi condensation cultivators? Senior brother Yinjio, are we still going to stay here? Although the Lu sisters were very close to Wanli Mingxian, they still trusted Yin Jioge the most. If Yin Jioge said he wanted to leave, they definitely would not stay. What do you think, brother Wanli? Yin Jioge looked at Wanli Mingxian. Cultivators like us fight against the heavens and humans. The opportunity is right in front of me. I won't retreat so easily. Wanli Mingxian shook his head. He still owed a huge debt, and was just waiting for this opportunity to make a fortune. But that middle-aged cultivator just said that you Foundation establishment cultivators can't enter, Yin Jioge said. Listen to his bullshit. Wanli Mingxian had a look of disdain. If Foundation establishment cultivators couldn't enter, why would they be so proactive in helping the Middle Continent Alliance find Qi condensation disciples? Yin Jioge pondered for a moment, then looked at Zishang, who was invisible and sitting beside him. The Lu sisters could not help but look over as well. Although they could not see anything, they still felt a little nervous. Go. Zishang nodded. All right. Since that's the case, let's stay and observe the situation. With Zishang around, there was nothing to be afraid of. That's great. The Lu sisters nodded excitedly. Although the 2 sisters said it in a carefree manner, they were also very unwilling to leave just like that. The Middle Continent Alliance will be organized in 3 days. When the time comes, you just have to follow me to participate. Wanli Mingxian had already asked around. He felt that he was very lucky to be able to meet these 3 people. Otherwise, he might have to spend a lot of effort to enter the ruins. In the next 3 days, whenever Yin Jioge and the Lu sisters went out to ask around, they would always run into Foundation establishment cultivators who wanted to hire them to go to the ruins. For example, the middle-aged swordsman could be politely brushed off. Those with a domineering temper would directly threaten and bribe them. At this time, it was Wanli Mingxian who stood up for them. Fortunately, fighting was prohibited in the workshop. Otherwise, many lives would have been lost. Apart from asking around, the 3 of them also went to the Middle Continent workshop to search for treasures. Many cultivators would set up stalls at the free market in the west of the Middle Continent after robbing or picking up things that they did not want. It was much cheaper than in the Ziyun workshop. Of course, there were always fakes when searching for treasures. However, Yin Jioge had extraordinary eyesight, so he could always tell whether a treasure was real or fake. For example, the coral earrings that Lu Mei'er was holding were said to have been worn by a succubus before. They could increase one's charm ability. Chapter 372. This coral is fake. It's just an ordinary spiritual coral. 50 spirit stones is simply a scam. Yin Jioge ignored the ugly expression of the stall owner and pulled the reluctant Lu Mei'er away. Walking to a stall with a pile of accessories, Yin Jioge squatted down and started to search. In the end, he picked up a purple veil embroidered with cloud patterns and said to Lu Meier, "This is more suitable for you. This veil could automatically produce cloud qi. Apart from nourishing the skin, it could also block all kinds of qi from invading. More importantly, it was several times cheaper than earrings. It could be bought for only 50 spirit stones. It was practically free. Okay, I want this." Lu Meier trusted Yin Jioga's taste. "What about me?" Lu Tian'er pouted. "This one." Yin Jioga picked up a red sandalwood hairpin. Not only could it moisturize black hair and keep it clean, it could also form a protective cover to protect the head in times of danger. Although the function was a bit useless, the price of 50 spirit stones was a huge profit. Lu Tian'er was also very satisfied with this hairpin. Compared to buying a good thing, she was happier that she got a big bargain. Yin Jioga's eyes swept around and was attracted by a pair of worn-out black wings. It looked very similar to the pair of flying magic tools she saw in the Thousand Treasure Tower. However, the quality was slightly better. She was now at the 7th level of Qi Disciple and could already fly with magic tools. However, the speed of the bone spur was very slow and was far worse than a flying magic tool. This is a rank 3 bat wing. It was refined from the bones of a wind bat. Now it's selling at a loss for only 300 spirit stones. The stall owner enthusiastically called out. A few of these bat bones are broken. Moreover, more than half of the runic patterns on it have been erased. Can it still be used? Yin Jioga picked it up and looked at it carefully. Of course it can be used. If it was complete, it could be sold for at least 700 spirit stones. It's already a big loss for me to charge you 300 spirit stones. The stall owner said with a pained expression. Please, a flying magic tool that can be sold for 700 spirit stones is just refined. How can this broken thing that you picked up from God knows where compare? That's right. You still have the nerve to sell it for 300 spirit stones. I think it's worth 50 spirit stones at most. The Lu sisters also rolled up their sleeves and joined in the haggling. After a fierce battle of words, Yin Jioga finally bought the pair of bat wings for 150 spirit stones. The Lu sisters also took a fancy to the veil and the wooden hairpin as extras. When Yin Jioga returned to the inn, she went to ask Zishang to help her repair the runes on the bat stinger. Collecting junk all day long, and you still have the nerve to ask me for help? Although Zishang scolded her, he still helped her complete the runes in the end. Yin Jioga secretly tried it out, and it was very effective. In just a moment it could fly 10 miles away. It was definitely a life-saving treasure. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the central state to assemble. These are for you. Yin Jioga gave the Lu sisters each one of the black cloaks he had bought. It's too expensive. Lu Meier refused again and again. They had spent a lot of money on this journey, so they didn't have any more money to buy these things. This is for you. You don't have to pay for it. Yin Jioga already knew that the Lu sisters were poor. Thank you, senior brother. Senior brother is really a good person. The Lu sisters immediately received it excitedly and began to study the runes on it. Wow, this can adjust the body shape. I want to adjust into a muscular man. Lu Tian'er immediately began to adjust, and the black cloak immediately became longer and wider. Use it wisely. This is not cheap. Yin Jioga still couldn't help but say a few words. I originally wanted to buy it at the Myriad Treasure Tower, but that place is too black-hearted. It wasn't easy to get it from a small store. So black-hearted. Then let's not go there in the future. The Lu sisters and Yin Jioga shared a common enemy. The Myriad Treasure Tower's young master touched his nose and hurriedly changed the topic. It's getting late. Let's hurry over. Let's go. Yin Jioga and the Lu sisters put on the cloaks and transformed into 3 muscular men. They followed behind Wan Mingxian, and they looked to be half a head taller than him. Cough cough. Wan Mingxian couldn't help but cough twice before saying seriously, we still need to verify our cultivation when we go over later. We can't wear this cloak now. Let's keep it until we enter the ruins. All right. The Lu sisters reluctantly took off the cloaks, but they still kept the disguise of ugly women on their faces. It's best not to keep the disguise. Wan Mingxian had a troubled expression. Although the gathering order didn't say it very clearly, such a simple disguise could still be easily picked apart. No, there are so many bad people there. What if they covet our beauty? The Lu sisters refused to show their true faces. But your looks are too fake. Wan Mingxian was helpless. Even his toes could see that it was fake. Come, come, come. I'll help you change it. Changing her appearance was simply a piece of cake for Yin Jioga. She took off the Lu sisters' coarse disguise, took out some medicinal liquid, and smeared it on. Then she changed her clothes and immediately transformed. And not bad. Wan Mingxian took a look and nodded in agreement. It's very unique in its ugliness. Lu Meier's skin was slightly dark. She had thick eyebrows, small eyes, a flat nose, a big mouth and a square chin. When she smiled, she revealed a mouth full of yellow teeth. Lu Tianer's eyebrows were sparse, and the distance between her eyes was very wide. When she smiled, she looked like an infatuated fool. The two sisters threw flirtatious glances at Wan Mingxian at the same time. Let's go, let's go. Wan Mingxian didn't dare to look anymore. He turned around and ran out the door. The middle ground ruins was a wasteland 100 miles away from the workshop. At this time, a simple and crude yellow city had already been built on the wasteland, enclosing the entire ruins. Groups of soldiers patrolled on top of the mud walls. The leaders were all middle-stage foundation establishment cultivators. The security was even tighter than the workshop. The guard was an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. He had a long thin face, small eyes, and a small mustache above his lips. He took Wan Mingxian's pass and examined it carefully. Then he looked behind him and said, "Only these three?" "Yes, senior." The Lu sisters immediately winked at him. The small mustache's face twitched. He hurriedly looked away and said to a soldier beside him, "Bring them in." Yes. A soldier at the third level of qi condensation led Yin Jioga and the others inside. They followed the yellow walkway and turned a few corners before arriving at an open space. They were surrounded by mud walls that were 20 feet tall. Below their feet was a brown land overgrown with weeds. Not far away, there was an earthy yellow platform. On it, there were 3 large flags of the Central Ground Alliance with a black background and a red heart. 6 foundation establishment cultivators wearing black masks guarded the platform. There were already 5 foundation establishment cultivators gathered in the open space. Behind each of them were 3 qi condensation cultivators. The middle-aged sword cultivator, who contacted Yin Jioga a few days ago, was also there. When he saw her from afar, he nodded at her. Yin Jioga also nodded in return. She swept her gaze around and found that most of the people here were itinerant cultivators and righteous cultivators. There was actually no one from the evil sections. Chapter 373. I heard that the evil sects are gathering in another place, Wan Mingxian said softly. He had been pretending to be a swordsman all this time, which was why he had gathered here. I see. Although Yin Jioga was a little surprised, she did not sense anything wrong. The evil sects and the righteous sects had always been at odds, so it was normal for them to make arrangements separately. I heard that the Central Continent Alliance sent out a total of 18 communication talismans, Wan Mingxian said softly. If we can find 3 qi refinement disciples among these 18 people, there will be 62 people. Including the Central Continent Alliance's own people, that's too many. Although Yin Jioga had never entered the ruins, she knew that it was different from a mystic realm. It would not be very big, and there would not be many things, but they would all be of high quality. With so many people going in, there will definitely be a fight. Wan Mingxian was very experienced in this. He reminded the Lu sisters, "If we get separated when we go in, you must protect yourselves. Otherwise, you will be the first to die." The Lu sisters nodded solemnly. Fortunately, Lu Meier had the Overlord Flower, and Lu Tianer had the 9 Yudao body. Even if the two of them were unfortunately separated, they would not immediately become cannon fodder. It would not be a problem for them to hide for a while. As for Yin Jioga, they did not have to worry. Unless Zishang left on his own, they would not get lost anywhere. At that moment, Zishang was looking at the yellow earth wall around him with a solemn expression. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Yin Juga asked. I'm wondering where the ruins are. Zishang replied. It should be behind the wall. Yin Juga guessed. No. Zishang shook his head and asked Yin Juga. Don't you feel that the circulation of spirit energy here is very slow? Yin Juga tried and found that it was really as Zishang said. She also scanned the surroundings. The Qi refinement cultivators were all excitedly preparing to enter the ruins, and did not find anything strange. Is there an array formation carved down here? Yin Juga rubbed the ground with her feet, and did not find anything strange. Zishang shook his head, and looked at the earthen yellow platform. Yin Juga followed his gaze, and saw the few foundation establishment cultivators, looking at the people on the ground with fierce eyes. Noticing Yin Juga's gaze, he immediately glared back at Yin Juga, as if saying, What are you looking at? Be careful that I don't make things difficult for you. What's wrong? The Lu sisters whispered. I'm fine. Yin Juga retracted his gaze as if nothing had happened. He began to be vigilant of his surroundings. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, the remaining 3 foundation establishment cultivators brought the Qi condensation cultivators over one after another. Everyone was finally here. It's almost time for the ruins to be opened. Foundation establishment cultivators, go ahead and discuss some matters. Qi gathering cultivators, wait here. A man as tall and strong as an iron tower walked onto the platform and said loudly, I'm going over. You guys be careful. Wanli Mingxian gave a few more instructions before following the cultivators of the Central State Alliance with the other foundation establishment cultivators. Come and get your tokens. You'll need them to enter the ruins later. The towering man called the Qi training disciples to gather on the high platform. The Qi condensation cultivators gathered around them. Just as the Lu sisters were about to step forward, they were pulled back by Yin Juga. Be careful. There's something wrong here. The Lu sisters instinctively trusted Yin Juga. They immediately took out bone spikes from their storage pouches and held them in their hands, forming a defensive formation. Yin Juga stared at the high platform. He noticed that after the Qi training cultivators gathered, the large flags on the high platform began to flutter, even though there was no wind. Several rays of light spread along the surrounding mud walls. The air became heavy and moist. The spiritual energy that was already having a hard time circulating became even heavier. You 3 over there. Hurry up and come over. The towering man pointed at Yin Juga and the other 2. Yin Juga took a step back instead. He shouted to the Qi training disciples, Everyone be careful. There's an ambush on the high platform. The Qi training disciples who were collecting tokens immediately became restless. They cautiously retreated, but were stopped by the foundation establishment cultivators on the high platform. The towering man's eyes narrowed. A vicious glint shot out from them. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Yin Juga and the others. With a wave of his right hand, a black hook flew out from his storage pouch towards Yin Juga's chest. Yin Juga summoned his 4 bone spikes to block. With a few popping sounds, the 4 bone spikes were instantly destroyed by the small iron hook. Yin Juga's pupils shrank. His heart was filled with shock. Although her 4 bone spikes were low level, they weren't ordinary. They couldn't even block a single move. This towering cultivator was too strong. Senior apprentice brother, be careful. The Lu sisters pinched their fingers, and the puppet Yin corpse fell to the ground. It opened its mouth and spat out a red light to block the small iron hook. Yin corpse sect. The towering man was stunned when he saw the puppet Yin corpse. He immediately revealed a cruel smile. Then I can't let you live. His aura instantly soared as he advanced from the early foundation establishment stage to the middle foundation establishment stage. The Lu sisters' faces turned white with fear. If he was at the early foundation establishment stage, they could still fight. But if he was at the middle foundation establishment stage, he would die without a doubt. Yin Juga looked at Zishang and saw him looking at the high platform with a serious expression. At some unknown time, the large flag on the high platform flew into the air and turned into a giant black light screen that covered all the Qi training disciples. The light screen was filled with a black and red fog. The Qi training disciples that were touched by the fog let out pitiful cries as they exploded like fireworks and turned into a blood mist. The surrounding tall earthen walls instantly collapsed, revealing the blood-red runes within. Waves of red light spread out like a tide. Yin Joga was shocked to find that they were already at the center of the ruins. This high platform was using the flesh and blood of the Qi training cultivators to open the exit of the ruins. The earth shook, and a palace rose from the center of the earth. The black and red fog completely covered the palace. Without a special token from the Central State Alliance, it was impossible to safely pass through this fog. The towering cultivator was a bit anxious. The ruins had already appeared, and if he couldn't make it in time, it would be a big loss. He had to quickly kill these 3 ants in front of him. He quickly increased his attacks, and the iron hook released a life-chasing black Qi. Yin Joga took out his demonic blade and began to fight with the iron hook. The Lu sisters released their small shields, and the Overlord flower stood on the side. The 3 of them worked together to defend, completely blocking the attacks of the small iron hook. The towering cultivator's eyes flashed with a fierce glow as he bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood at the life-chasing devil hook. The life-chasing devil hook instantly grew to a size of 10 meters and was covered in a thick black Qi. It whizzed towards Yin Joga and the others. Yin Joga quickly formed a hand seal and condensed the demonic blade into a blood-red long blade. He rushed forward without hesitation. Just as the 2 of them were about to collide, the small black hook suddenly stopped and fell to the ground. The towering cultivator's eyes bulged with blood. He lowered his head in disbelief and saw a white palm appear on his chest. Chapter 374. The towering man suddenly turned his head and saw a man with gray hair and gray eyes, a stunning beauty, and a cold expression, pinching his heart. Her fair, jade-like palms made his heart look even redder than before. Zishang clenched his hand, and the heart shattered into a puddle of blood. The towering man fell to the ground. Before he died, he thought, "So my heart is red too?" Zishang shook his hand in disgust, and the blood gathered and fell to the ground. Yin Juga gulped. Every time he saw Zishang dig out someone's heart, he felt so cruel, and his chest hurt. "What are you standing there for?" Zishang pointed at the towering man's storage bag. Yin Joga's chest immediately stopped hurting, and he happily picked up the man's storage bag, not forgetting to take the small black iron hook. Lu Mei'er commanded the Overlord flower to devour the towering man's flesh and heart. "Let's see what's inside." Yin Joga handed the cultivator's storage bag to Zishang. She couldn't get rid of the Mid-Stage Foundation establishment divine sense. Zishang helped her open the storage bag and took out a black bracelet. This should be the token to pass through the fog. "Then let's go take a look." Thinking that the ruins were on the other side, Yin Joga instantly felt a little excited. "Put on your bat wings." Zishang threw the storage bag to Yin Joga. Yin Joga put away the storage bag and put on the bat wings. The Lu sisters also held the paper crane in their hands, ready to escape at any time. "Let's go." Zishang activated the black bracelet, and a faint screen of light enveloped Yin Joga and the others. Then they walked into the black light. The black light screen was filled with countless wind blades and tiny black gas, which attacked them like a storm. Purple deceased sword then sent out a cloud of purple mist, which blocked the terrifying black Qi outside. After a while, Yin Joga and the others finally reached the edge of the light screen. From afar, they could see that the ruins were majestic, and there were more than 10 entrances. Dozens of spiritual lights flew towards the entrance of the palace, all of them Mid-Stage Foundation establishment cultivation. They didn't know how Bailey Mingxian was doing. "Senior brother Yunjiao, are we still going in?" Lu Tianer's voice was filled with anticipation and fear. With their cultivation, it was extremely dangerous to snatch food from a Foundation establishment cultivator's mouth. But what if they really got it? He got a little excited at the thought. Many of these cultivators are from the Central State Alliance. We won't even be enough to fill their teeth. Yin Joga didn't want to expose Zishang's existence. Then forget it. Lu Mei'er decisively gave up. Now that they had the Overlord flower, If they were to cultivate it properly, their future would be limitless. Zishang wore an indifferent expression. If Yin Joga wanted to go, then he would follow. If not, then he would return home. Let's see if we can find Wanli Mingxian. If he could team up with him, he could give it a try. Yin Joga squatted down and waited for a long time. He saw the palace's entrance begin to blur, and the entrance was about to close. However, he still did not see Wanli Mingxuan's shadow. Senior brother, let's go. The Lu sisters also gave up. All right, Yin Joga could only give up. At this time, the storage pouch on her waist suddenly moved, and the small bronze cauldron flew out with a swoosh. Like a meteor chasing after the sun, it flew towards the gradually disappearing entrance of the palace. Tisk! Yin Joga subconsciously activated his bat wings, transforming into a shooting star as he charged into the cauldron. Senior martial brother. Seeing this, the Lu sisters gritted their teeth and released their paper cranes to follow him in. They really know how to cause trouble. Zishang frowned. His figure was even faster than the Lu sisters, and he instantly passed through the entrance of the palace. The entrance was filled with confusion. Zishang pinched his fingers and calculated. Then he chased towards the east. Yin Joga looked left and right in the palace, but could not find the small bronze cauldron. He shouted, "Small cauldron, where are you?" "Stop shouting." Zishang rushed over and pulled Yin Joga to the ground. With a dark expression he scolded, "Do you want to die? How dare you barge in with your head covered?" If they had not made a contract, he would not have been able to find her. "I can't find the miniature bronze cauldron." Yin Joga was truly anxious. "Check to see if the fat rat is still there," Zishang reminded him. Yin Joga took out the spirit beast pouch and saw the treasure-seeking scorpion couple hugging each other and sleeping. The pink cocoon did not change at all, and the place that belonged to the pippy rat was empty. It seemed like the small bronze cauldron had taken it away. Did I not treat them well? Why did they run? Yin Joga was very angry. He felt like he had raised an ingrate. Perhaps there is something in the ruins that attracted it. Zishang looked around. There was a vast fog all around, and he could not see the end of it. What could it be? Yin Joga's eyes lit up. The small bronze cauldron and the pippy rat were both good items. Something that could attract them here had to be a treasure among treasures. Let the treasure-seeking scorpion search. Zishang directly summoned the scorpion. The scorpion twisted its fat body and climbed up the pouch to Yin Joga's shoulder. It asked, "Lord, why did you summon me?" "See if there are any treasures here," Yin Joga instructed. The scorpion landed on the ground and swung its thick stinger around. It said in a daze, "Lord, I didn't find any treasures. The spiritual chi here seems to be blocked by something." Treasures really aren't that easy to get. Yin Joga was not discouraged. After summoning the scorpion back, she remembered something. Oh right, where are the Lu sisters? She had been in a hurry to run, and had forgotten to greet the two sisters. They were probably anxious now. "They flew in with you." Zishang had been focused on chasing after Yin Joga, and was not in the mood to take care of the two sisters. "Then let's go find them first." This ruins was so strange, and there were so many enemies. If there was no one to protect them, the Lu sisters would be in great danger. Right west. Zishang had vaguely seen the Lu sisters teleport in that direction. Yin Joga flapped her wings and flew west with Zishang. After flying for a while, the fog in front of them gradually dissipated, and a small village appeared out of nowhere. Straw huts were scattered at the front and back of the village. Skinny Dog was lying in front of the door with its tongue hanging out. A few old cows were pulling pears in the fields. The faces of the farmers were full of worries, and their clothes were also covered with patches. One look, and you could tell that they were from an extremely poor family. The crops in the fields were sparse and dry, indicating that it was not the harvest season this year. An old woman with gray temples and a face full of hardships was sitting by the side of the field, wiping away her tears. She looked very sad. The scene in front of her was too real. For a moment, Yin Joga felt like she had come to the wrong place. This is an illusion. Zishang saw through it with a glance. Let's go down and take a look. Yin Joga believed that this illusion would not appear for no reason. Chapter 375. Yin Jioga pulled Zishang to the ground and walked towards the old woman, who was wiping away her tears. He asked, "Auntie, what is this place? Why are you crying out of nowhere?" "Our village is called Stone Village. Today the land is dry, and our crops can't survive. My old man is sick, so I can only sell my daughter to Lu Yuanwei in town to be his second wife. I got 10 taels of silver." "I'm so sorry," the old woman said while crying. "Does Lu Yuanwei not treat your daughter well?" Yin Juga asked again. "That Lu Yuanwei is not a local. 8 years ago, he brought his 2 newborn sons to Joshi town. Not long after, he married the daughter of a small family in town. That family's daughter died not long after the wedding. I heard that her corpse was eaten by a wild beast. Half a year later, Lu Yuanwei married a new wife, but she also died not long after. It was said that she fell into the mountains, and her corpse disappeared. The people in town said that he was a wife killer, and no good family was willing to marry their daughter to him. He went to the poor families in the village to buy their daughters, and married 5 more in a row. All of them died, and their corpses could not be found. My daughter Lotus was the 8th. I was afraid that she would also die if she married him." The old woman cried pitifully. "Since you know that Lu Yuanwei is not a good person, why did you still marry your daughter to him? A person who pushed his daughter into a pit of fire for 10 taels of silver was not worthy of sympathy. I didn't know it was like this at the time. I only heard about it from the peddler later. I quickly took the remaining 5 taels of silver and wanted to bring my daughter back. I could return the money later, but the 5 taels of silver were stolen by the robbers. Without money, Lu Yuanwei refused to let my daughter go. My daughter resented me and didn't even want to see him. What a sin!" The old woman cried even harder. "Your daughter didn't want to come back. Could it be that Lu Yuanwei used your life to threaten her? This was a trick that bad people often used. That must be the case. Young master, I see that you are kind. Please save my daughter." The old woman knelt down and was about to beg. "Auntie, don't be like this. Please get up." Yin Jioga quickly supported the old woman and comforted her. "I will go to town and help you, but I'm afraid that Lotus won't believe us. Do you have a keepsake for us?" "Yes." The old woman tremblingly took out a red headband from her patched pocket and said, "This is what Lotus likes to wear before she gets married. She will believe you the moment she sees this." Yin Jioga took the red rope and asked for directions to the town. He comforted the old woman and left her 10 taels of silver for her to treat her husband's illness. Little Gongzi is such a good person. The old lady was so moved that she took out a silver lotus hairpin and said, "This is what my daughter gave me when I visited her last time. I don't need it now, so you can go back and give it to her. If she doesn't want to come back and wants to live with Lu Yuanwei, then let her think more about herself and save more money. It's all because I'm useless as a mother. I didn't even prepare a dowry for her." The aunt cried again as she spoke. "Don't worry, auntie. I will deliver your message." Yin Jioga took the silver hairpin and left Stone Village, heading towards town. "It's just an illusion. You are quite serious." Zishang saw that Yin Jioga looked like he was having a good time. That old woman is really worried about her daughter. As long as the feelings were real, even an illusion was worth helping. "Where did you get the 10 taels of silver?" Zishang asked. "I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to find change for the spiritual jade when I went to Thunder Country, so I prepared it. I still have a lot of gold and silver jewelry in my storage bag. Do you want to spend some?" Yin Jioga asked with a smile. "Keep it to redeem your lotus." Zishang was obviously playing with Yin Jioga. The two of them walked for a while and arrived at Joshi town. The town wasn't big, with only a few hundred households. It was called Joshi town because there was a small stream that flowed through the town and made 9 turns. Yin Jioga found a small tea house. After ordering tea, he asked the skinny waiter about Lu Yuanwei. The waiter's situation was similar to the old woman's. Lu Yuanwei did have a reputation for cursing his wife. However, he was a very good person. He built bridges and paved roads. He gave money everywhere. He was a very kind person. Yin Jioga asked about Lu Yuanwei's new wife Lotus. The skinny waiter said that Lu Yuanwei loved his new wife very much. Not only did he often bring her out for meals, but he also bought the best clothes and jewelry. What's the point of asking them? We can just go and find her. Zishang really didn't blame Yun Jioge for dilly-dallying. Then let's go now. Yun Jioge brought Zishang to Lu Yuanwai's house. Lu Yuanwai was about 40 years old. He had a pale face and a kind face. He looked like a good person. When he found out that Yun Jioge was Lotus' relative, he not only warmly received them, but also called Lotus out. Lotus was beautiful. She wore a brand new lotus-colored satin dress. She was so thin that a gust of wind could blow her away. When she saw the red headband that Yun Jioge brought, she only said a few words. Mother worries too much. I'm living well here. My husband treats me very well too. Please tell her not to worry too much when you go back. Come on, what's so good about being so thin? Yun Jioge believed that Lotus wouldn't have looked so skinny in the past. How could she do farm work without daring? However, when she saw Lu Yuanwai's smiling face, she didn't say much and could only say goodbye. As soon as they left, Yun Jioge asked Zishang, "Did you see anything?" "I saw that this is all an illusion." Zishang looked bored. It seemed like it was all an illusion. What could he find? This illusion is definitely not that simple. Let's go and continue looking for clues. Yun Jioge dragged Zishang around the town. After asking around, they found some clues. First, Lu Yuanwai brought back 2 babies 8 years ago. However, after 8 years, the people in town never saw Lu Yuanwai with the babies. Second, every wife of Lu Yuanwai had nightmares not long after they got married. They said that there was a big monster and 2 small monsters haunting them. The last point made Yun Jioge feel strange. The people in town were all as thin as Lotus. This coincidence was too strange. This Lu Yuanwai is either a mountain spirit or a ghost. Yun Jioge finally came to a conclusion after careful speculation. If we want him to show himself, we have to meet certain conditions. Zishang finally became a little more spirited. Let's go ask Lotus tonight. During the day, Lu Yuanwai was always by Lotus's side. Even if she had something to say, she didn't dare to say it. If she doesn't want to leave, just knock her out and take her away. In the end, Zishang still liked to use violence to solve problems. Chapter 376. The night was dark, and the town was extremely quiet. Only the occasional barking of a dog could be heard. Yun Jioge and Zishang sneaked into Squire Lu's residence. She first scanned the entire mansion with her divine sense, but she did not find any monsters, nor did she see the 2 legendary children. Lu Yuanwai was sleeping soundly on the bed. Beside him, Lotus was in a daze, unable to fall asleep for a long time. At this moment, there was the sound of something falling to the ground and knocking on the window. Lotus was startled. She looked up and saw that something had been stuffed into the window. It was the red rope from earlier. She hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she put on her clothes and walked out. Sure enough, she saw the handsome young man her mother had entrusted to her standing under the tree waiting for her. "Why are you here again?" Lotus lowered her voice. "Auntie asked me to return this to you. She said that she wasn't able to prepare a dowry for you when you got married. She told you to keep it as your own money and think more about yourself. If you miss home, you can go back." Yun Jioge took out the silver lotus hairpin. Lotus looked at the lotus hairpin in a daze. Tears flowed down her thin cheeks. She choked and said, "I thought mother only wanted money and didn't want me anymore. How could that be? Auntie cries at home every day. She is worried that something will happen to you here. She has always wanted to bring you home, but she has no choice. She has come a few times, but Lu Yuanwai has chased her away. Don't you know about this?" Yun Jioge said half-truthfully. "Squire Lu said that my mother came to him a few times to ask for money. He also said that in my mother's heart, I'm just a money tree. Even if I leave this place, my mother will sell me somewhere else." Lotus sobbed. "Nonsense. Auntie was left with 5 taels of silver after treating the old man's illness. She wanted to use it to ransom you, but the robbers took it away. The old man is injured now, and she has to take care of the old man and worry about you. Her body is about to collapse," Yun Jioge said vividly. "Boo-hoo, mother. Lotus covered her mouth and cried her heart out. Her shoulders kept twitching. Auntie misses you very much. Why don't you come back with us? If Lu Yuanwei was really a monster, he would definitely transform when he saw Lotus leave. I can't go back. Unexpectedly, Lotus wiped away her tears and shook her head decisively. Why? You don't want to see Auntie? Yin Zhuge asked curiously. No, it's my child who can't leave me, Lotus said with a troubled expression. Child? When did you have a child? Didn't they say that Lotus had just married into the family not long ago? I have 2 children. They are well behaved and adorable. I want to stay and take care of them, Lotus said with a motherly smile on her face. Yin Zhuge remembered that the townspeople had said that Lu Yuanwei had 2 children, but no outsider had ever seen them. Could it be these 2? Let her take us to see the 2 children, Zishang whispered into Yin Zhuge's ear. Yin Zhuge nodded. Then he gave Lotus a wolf-like smile and said, Lotus, Auntie must be very happy to know that you have children. Can you take us to see them? That way, I can give Auntie an explanation when I return. Lotus hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded and said, Okay, but my children are very shy and afraid of meeting strangers. Don't make any noise later, lest you scare them. Okay, I promise I won't make a sound. Yin Zhuge nodded solemnly. Lotus took Yin Zhuge to a rock garden in a secluded courtyard, and went underground through a dark tunnel. Yin Zhuge quietly followed the Lotus to the ground, and saw a black pool of water. Children, mother is here. Lotus had a dreamy expression on her face, as she squatted beside the pool, and stirred the black water. The ripples spread out, as if they had startled some kind of monster. The waves in the water were turbulent, and 2 waves rushed over one after another. Then a big and a small black figure crawled out of the water. Their heads looked a bit like a human's face. They didn't have a nose and were covered in scales. They had blood-red eyes, sharp teeth, a lizard's body, and a long tail. As soon as the 2 monsters came ashore, they pounced at Lotus. They grabbed her arm and bit her, then began to suck her blood. Good child, eat slowly. Don't rush. Lotus had a kind smile on her thin face, as she watched the 2 monsters suck her blood. She didn't care about the life force in her body draining away. Yin Zhuge frowned and couldn't help but shout, Lotus! Her voice wasn't loud, but it was very clear in the quiet and gloomy underground. Lotus was startled. She immediately regained her senses, and looked down to see the 2 monsters sucking her blood. She immediately screamed and shook them off. When the 2 monsters realized that their food had woken up, they immediately opened their bloody mouths and pounced at Lotus. Yin Zhuge immediately took out his evil blade, and turned into 5 bloody lights. The big monster was more cunning. It twisted its body, and hid behind the small monster. The small monster didn't care and pounced forward. With a sweep of its tail, it knocked the first evil blade away. The second evil blade was knocked askew. The third evil blade cut through the small monster's scales. The fourth evil blade left a white mark on its body. The fifth one pierced its neck and pinned it to the ground. The small monster immediately let out a shrill scream. The 5 evil blades rushed forward and quickly sucked it dry. The big monster saw that the situation wasn't good. It swung its tail and wanted to escape back into the water. The excited evil blade pierced through the back of its head and turned around to cut the monster in half. Blood spurted out and was sucked clean by the evil saber. Who killed my child? The black water surged, and a furious roar of shock could be heard. Half of Lu Yuanwei's body came out of the water. Seeing the 2 dead monsters, his eyes turned red with hatred. His teeth opened wide as black scales grew from his face to his entire body. In an instant, he turned into a monster as big as the 2 small monsters, and pounced at Yin Zhuge. Yin Zhuge formed a hand seal. The 5 evil blades turned into streaks of light, and stabbed towards Lu Yuanwei. But the scales on his body bounced them off. Lu Yuanwei's thick black tail swept towards Yin Zhuge. The bat wings on Yin Zhuge's back flapped, and he dodged to the side, forming another hand seal to control the evil blades to attack Lu Yuanwei. After a few moves, the water in the pond splashed and the passage collapsed. Lu Yuanwei relied on his tough scales to ignore the evil blades' attacks. Yin Zhuge relied on his wings to dodge his attacks. On the surface, they seemed to be evenly matched. But Lu Yuanwei was becoming more and more aggressive as he fought. Yin Zhouge was using up a lot of spirit energy. He was starting to feel a bit weak. Don't fight him head on, find his weakness. Zishang couldn't stand it anymore, and reminded from the side. Yin Zhouge obviously knew to find his weakness. But even after using the evil blades to test every part of Lu Yuanwei's body, she couldn't find any weak points. If only she could open her spirit eye. Yin Zhouge was distracted and accidentally got hit by Lu Yuanwei's tail. She lost her balance and fell to the ground. Chapter 377. Lu Yuanwei's large tail came crashing down. Yin Zhouge quickly rolled away to avoid the attack. But when she got up, she found the corpse of a small monster hanging on her sleeve. Her eyes lit up. That's right, the back of his head. All three of them were of the same race, so their weaknesses were the same. Yin Zhouge once again flew up, forming a hand seal to control the evil blade, to attack the back of Lu Yuanwei's head. Lu Yuanwei's tail was very agile, tightly protecting the weak spot behind his head. Yin Zhouge didn't hesitate to take the risk to attract Lu Yuanwei's attention, then commanded the main blade to hide next to Lu Yuanwei, and finally found an opening to stab the back of Lu Yuanwei's head. Lu Yuanwei roared, wanting to shake the evil blade out of his body, but that triggered the evil blade's absorption ability. The remaining 4 small blades took this chance to attack, striking the main blade one after another, instantly forming a long blood-red evil blade, cutting off Lu Yuanwei's head. Lu Yuanwei's body landed heavily on the ground, turning into a human-faced crocodile monster. The souls of 7 women flew out from his body, most likely the 7 wives killed by the monster. Just as Yin Zhouge was about to check the monster's body, a blue light flashed, and the soul of a beautiful woman floated out. This soul was glowing. It was a Foundation Establishment middle-stage cultivator. Thank you for killing the monster and saving me. The female cultivator gratefully bowed to Yin Zhouge. May I know your name, and how did you get swallowed by this monster? Yin Zhouge felt like he could get some information from this female cultivator. My name is Wen Hui. I'm one of the last batch of cultivators to enter the ruins. The female cultivator said something shocking. Turns out this ruin only appears once every 8 years. And its location isn't fixed. But it always requires a large amount of cultivators' blood and souls to open. And only Foundation Establishment cultivators can enter the ruins. Every cultivator that enters the ruins will encounter an illusion. If you brutally kill someone in the illusion, a powerful monster will appear. And the more people you kill, the stronger the monster that appears. When Hui entered the ruins with a sword cultivator, that sword cultivator was impatient and straightforward. As soon as he saw the illusion, he killed everyone in an attempt to break it. But in the end, this powerful crocodile came. After the crocodile devoured the sword cultivator, it raped Wen Hui. After Wen Hui gave birth to 2 baby crocodiles, her soul was devoured by the big crocodiles, and her body was eaten by the baby crocodiles. Once we kill the crocodile men, we'll be able to obtain the pass to the first stage of the ruins from their brains. Wen Hui guided Yin Zhouge to dig open the crocodile man's brain. In the end, they obtained a black inner core, which was also a pass. Looks like helping the people in the illusion solve their problems is the correct way to clear this stage. Yin Zhouge held the pearl and looked at Zishang proudly. Who was the one who said she was bored? Zishang gave Yin Zhouge a good look. Dao friend, I have another matter that I need your help with. Wen Hui looked at Yin Zhouge with a pleading look. Fellow Taoist Wen, please speak, said Yin Zhouge. Please help me send this cloud pattern gold thread embroidery needle back to the One family of Eastern Cloud Nation. As a reward, I will give you the One family's inherited talisman cultivation technique. Wen Hui reached out her hand and pulled out a white needle with golden edges from the back of the crocodile man's head. If she had not sacrificed herself to pin this cloud pattern gold thread embroidery needle into the back of the crocodile man's head, Yin Zhouge would have had to spend a lot of effort to kill it. Sure. Yin Zhouge took the needle from Wen Hui's hand. This top-tier 4th-tier magic tool was a rare treasure, But it was not enough to make her forget her morals for the sake of profit. Thank you. Wenhui smiled. After shooting a ball of light at Yun Jioga, her soul disappeared without a trace. Yun Jioga's mind was filled with notes on talisman embroidery. Although it was not very advanced, the basic content was very detailed. It was most suitable for a novice like Yun Jioga. I will leave my clothes to you from now on. Zishang was very supportive of Yun Jioga learning talisman embroidery. No problem, leave it to me. Yun Jioga suddenly felt like he was valued by Zishang. Ah, monster, monster. At this moment Lotus, who was lying in the corner, opened her eyes and screamed in fear. Just now, Zishang had cast a protective barrier on her, so she was not affected by the battle. It's okay, I've already killed the monster. Yun Jioga explained what happened, and even summoned the souls of the 7 women. When Lotus saw them, she immediately fainted. Yun Jioga scratched her face awkwardly. It seemed like she had messed up. In the end, Zishang sealed Lotus's memory and sent her home with Yun Jioga to reunite with her. Next, Yun Jioga placed a batch of antidote pills at the source of the stream. The crocodile man had poisoned the water nearby. The humans who drank the water would be bewitched by him and willingly give their blood to him. If the poison was not removed, these people would become weaker and die soon. After Yun Jioga settled everything and confirmed that the people of the town were fine, she prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, as soon as she left the town, the crocodile man's black inner core shot up into the sky. After a flash of light, the illusion of the town disappeared, and a huge maze appeared in front of her. Did the owner of the ruins create this illusion to find a kind person? Yun Jioga was confused. To be honest, if she was not in this godforsaken place, she would not be in the mood to pay attention to this illusion. Good people don't live long. He probably wants to treat us differently. After all, people who use such a stupid method usually don't have high cultivation. Zishang's words were straight to the point. Alright, Yun Jioga had to admit it. The reason why she spent so much time on the illusion was because her cultivation was too low. She could not be impulsive and could only choose the safe method. The two of them walked forward for an hour and finally reached the entrance of the maze. The entrance of the maze was 3 feet high, and the roof was a huge, handsome devil statue. This devil had curved horns like a sheep and black hair that was curled like seaweed. Its long and narrow eyes were pitch black. Its sexy lips were tightly pursed, and its expression was very cold. A pair of hands covered in black scales wrapped around the entrance, as if welcoming Yun Jioga into its embrace. Yun Jioga inexplicably felt that this devil statue was a little familiar, as if she had seen it somewhere before. She could not help but look at it carefully. Is it nice? Zishang's voice sounded in Yun Jioga's ears, startling her. Isn't it just a stone statue? What's so nice about it? Yun Jioga rolled her eyes at Zishang inexplicably. He made it sound like she was infatuated. Use your divine sense to scan the surroundings and see if there is anything going on. Zishang saw that Yun Jioga really did not care about the stone statue and quickly returned to normal. Oh! Yun Jioga obediently released her divine sense to scan the surroundings. After confirming that there was no danger, she carefully walked into the entrance. Zishang walked behind her and was about to enter the entrance when he suddenly looked up. He saw the eyes of the devil's statue flickering with red light. Its sexy lips curled up into a demonic smile. Its eyes looked greedily and longingly at Yun Jioga's back. Zishang's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. With a flick of his finger, 2 purple lights shot through the devil statue's eyes. The devil statue immediately dimmed. Its mouth was tightly pursed, and it returned to its cold appearance. Chapter 378. Zishang, come here quickly. Yun Jioga stood nearby and beckoned, completely unaware of the abnormality of the devil's stone statue. Zishang glanced at the devil's stone statue one last time, before returning to Yun Jioga's side in a flash. What were you looking at just now? Yun Jioga asked curiously. I was thinking about how to get out of this maze. Zishang said without changing his expression. not mentioning the abnormality of the Devil's Stone statue. Then have you found a way? Yin Juga's attention was immediately diverted. There are no clues at the moment. Zishang shook his head, his expression unusually grim. Is this maze very dangerous? Yin Juga suddenly felt a little nervous. No matter how she looked at the blood-red walls, she felt uncomfortable, as if someone was spying on her. She tried to send out her divine sense to probe, but was repelled by the walls. She couldn't fly up, couldn't move on the ground, and couldn't use the teleportation talisman. She could only rely on her 2 legs to move forward. This maze also has hallucinatory elements. You have to be careful, follow behind me. Zishang turned and walked in front. Yin Juga followed behind, and silently looked at Zishang's broad back. She suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she always felt that Zishang was a little cold towards her. He didn't tease her anymore, and he didn't use the opportunity to ask for kisses and caresses like before when he was in danger. At first, Yin Juga felt that Zishang was quite good like this, but now she suddenly felt that he lacked that kind of intimacy, and was no different from an ordinary friend. Most importantly, they hadn't dual cultivated for a long time. Although her dantian was stable, and didn't need to dual cultivate to replenish her spiritual energy, Zishang's honesty still made her very uncomfortable. Did she lose her charm, or was she too ugly now? Yin Juga couldn't help but touch her face, and quickly began to despise herself. In the past, she couldn't wait for Zishang to stay away from her, but now she had a thirsty look on her face. Wasn't she being cheap? Zishang didn't notice Yin Juga's internal struggle. He kept a calm face as he guided Yin Juga to the right path. They walked like this for more than 2 hours, passing through countless crossroads, but still didn't see any clues to pass. Zishang had been silent the entire time. He seemed to be deep in thought, but at the same time, he seemed to be in a daze. He often took a long time to react to Yin Juga's questions, or he didn't even hear them. After Yin Juga cultivated the 10,000 beast spell, her body was very strong, so walking was nothing to her. However, Zishang's silence made her feel very uncomfortable. When she tried to chat but failed again, she was a little angry. If you ignore me, I'll ignore you. Let's see who surrenders first. Just like that, the two of them walked silently for another hour. Zishang did not feel anything, but Yin Juga was extremely depressed. Just as she was about to explode from holding it in, she suddenly heard the sounds of intense fighting in the distance, as well as the cries of a child. It's Lu Meier's tyrant flower. Yin Juga's spirits immediately rose. This way. Zishang pointed in the opposite direction. They must be in danger. I am going to save them. Yin Juga angrily walked toward the source of the sound. We have to go this way to save them. The further we go, the further we go. Zishang held on to Yin Juga and explained patiently. All right. Yin Juga looked at Zishang's sincere face and finally decided to follow him into the opposite tunnel. After turning 2 corners, the sounds of fighting that were far away just now were now right in front of them. Yin Juga tiptoed over and peeked his head out to take a look. She saw the Lu sisters, one controlling the tyrant flower, and the other activating the abyssal Taoist body. They were fighting with 2 middle-stage Foundation Establishment Realm evil cultivators, who looked rather disheveled. Of the 2 evil cultivators, one was a short and fat old man with messy white hair. He held a dark green bamboo stick in his hand. There were 3 dark green leaves on the stick, and the veins in the leaves looked like there was blood flowing inside. Every time he waved the stick, a sky full of poisonous thorns would fly out and trap Lu Meier. The other evil cultivator was an elegant middle-aged scholar, wearing a brown scholar's robe. He held a black ruler in his hand, and there were many green-faced evil spirits engraved on it. At that moment, the ruler's light was dim, and a lot of evil spirits were used up, so its power was greatly reduced. The Lu sisters seemed to be in high spirits, and they were unharmed. That was why they could fight with the 2 evil cultivators for so long. However, their cultivation was too low, and if they dragged on, they would definitely lose. Little lowly slaves, don't think that you can escape by removing the imprint. If you come back to me obediently, I promise to spare your lives. The middle-aged scholar commanded the green-faced evil spirit to attack Lu Tian, while threatening her with a gentle tone. Unfortunately, Lu Tian completely ignored him. Her black hair fluttered, her eyes were bloodshot, her teeth were sharp, and her nails were long. She had completely entered the living corpse state, and her attacks were incomparably fierce. She wanted to capture her enemy. Lu Mei was also focused on commanding the tyrant flower to break through the poisonous thorns. She wanted to kill the fat old man to help her sister. "Brother Strange, are you sure these two girls are your escaped slaves?" the fat old man asked. "I would recognize them even if they turned into ashes." The middle-aged scholar looked at the Lu sisters with greedy eyes. If he had known that these two playthings could grow into what they were today, he would have cast a soul curse to not give them a chance to escape. "These two girls are not bad. I'll give you a rank 4-3 nether bone transformation vine. How about it?" The fat old man showed a greedy expression, and he was very satisfied with the Lu sisters. "Only one, but let's take them down first." When the middle-aged scholar was breaking through the illusion, he was entangled by a 3-headed rhinoceros. After defeating the monster and clearing the stage, his power was greatly reduced. Otherwise, he would have been able to take down Lu Tian. Okay. When the fat old man heard that the middle-aged scholar was willing to part with his treasures, he immediately became proactive. His injuries were better than the middle-aged scholar's, but he didn't use his full strength just now. He reached out and plucked the 3 dark green leaves from the bamboo cane and threw them into the air. The 3 leaves immediately turned into a big red and green net that flew towards Lu Mei. Lu Mei realized that the old man had used his ultimate move, so she bit the tip of her tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood at the tyrant flower. The tyrant flower waved its small hands, and the red demon eye on its face immediately shot out a red light to block the big net. Not bad, not bad. The more the old man looked at Lu Mei, the more he felt that Lu Mei was not bad. She could block his 1,000 silk green net at only Chi Disciple level 6. Her future was limitless. But she was still a bit tender, and still needed to be trained. The fat old man waved his bamboo cane again, and the 1,000 silk green net shone brightly, pressing down heavily on her. Lu Mei's face was pale, and she felt like there was a huge mountain pressing down on her head, and she was about to explode. At this time, the middle-aged scholar's face changed, and he turned his head to the left and shouted, "Who's there?" Chapter 379. Before the middle-aged scholar finished his sentence, several green-faced evil spirits flew towards the corner. The bamboo stick in the chubby old man's hand also shot out a leaf-shaped green light, and flew together with the green-faced evil spirit. With 2 bangs, the green-faced evil spirit and Yi Guang were smashed into pieces at the same time. Then, a Chi Disciple level 7 youth in white clothes walked out of the passage and looked at them expressionlessly. It was Yun Jioga who was caught peeping. "Senior brother." Lu Mei saw Yun Jioga and immediately called out excitedly, "Senior brother?" The middle-aged scholar frowned. It was already difficult for him, a foundation establishment middle stage, to come to this maze, but this Chi Disciple youth seemed to be able to do it easily. There must be something extraordinary about him. Thinking about it again, the Lu sisters looked at this youth as if they saw their savior, which meant they really believed in this youth's ability. The middle-aged scholar's heart suddenly thumped when he thought of this. The sudden sense of danger made him turn around without hesitation and escape in a flash of light. The chubby old man was stunned. He knew this cunning old monster very well. He must have discovered the terror of this youth in front of him. That's why he ran away in a hurry. The chubby old man immediately put away the net and wanted to escape, but it was too late. A palm with a faint gray aura pulled out his heart and squeezed it into meat paste. Zishang had been in a bad mood ever since he saw the Devil Stone statue. He needed to vent but couldn't let Yin Jioga know. The chubby old man could only blame his bad luck for running into the muzzle of a gun. Zishang directly threw the meat paste on the tyrant flower's face, then threw the chubby old man's bamboo stick and storage bag to Yin Jioga. The tyrant flower excitedly stuck out its long tongue and began to lick the meat paste on its face. Its small hands kept on catching the blood that dripped down its face. Yin Jioge looked at it, and immediately looked away after collecting the spoils of war. He went to ask Lu Mei'er about the situation, after entering the secret realm. Lu Mei'er helped her sister get rid of the cold ghost energy, while talking about what happened after they entered the ruins. The illusion they encountered was a brothel. There was a girl called Mei Xiang, who was almost beaten to death, because she didn't want to receive customers. Mei Xiang was originally the only daughter of the town's teacher, and grew up pampered. Unexpectedly, after her parents died, her aunt sold her to a gambler for only 5 taels of silver. The gamblers beat and scolded her. Not only did they sell their only son to someone else, but they also sold her to a brothel to pay off their debts. The Lu sisters had destroyed the brothel. Not only had they rescued Mei Xiang, but they had also made appropriate arrangements for the other weak women in the brothel. Then they went to find the gambler's husband, killed the monster on him, and got the pass. Then, they helped Mei Xiang find her sold son. After that, he helped Mei Xiang settle down in her new home, taught her how to make tofu to earn money, and even helped her pay for her son's schooling. In the end, she found out that the honest peddler next door liked Mei Xiang, and even arranged a marriage between them. The Lu sisters stayed with Mei Xiang, and helped her solve many problems. They didn't leave the dreamland until she had many children and grandchildren, and died of old age. The pass would send them straight into the maze. Admirable. Yin Jioge gave the Lu sisters a thumbs up. To be able to accompany Mei Xiang for the rest of her life, what kind of patience was required? Senior brother Yunjio, please don't laugh at us. Lu Mei'er smiled bitterly. The 2 sisters sympathized with Mei Xiang, and hoped that she could be happy. By the way, was that middle-aged scholar the evil old monster? Yin Jioge asked again. That's right. Lu Mei'er nodded seriously. Not long after they entered the maze, they located the old monster's position. In order to avoid him, they purposely chose the opposite direction, but they didn't expect to bump into him. We only met him once on the way to Zhongzhou. We only got rid of him thanks to senior brother Wan Li. Lu Tian'er had already used her ghost energy to return to her human form. She gritted her teeth, and her face twisted when she talked about her enemy. Don't worry, you will definitely have the chance to take revenge. That old monster had used up a lot of energy on his way here. Even without Zishang's help, he should be able to kill him. Yes, the Lu sisters nodded. As long as they could kill the old monster, it was worth it even if they got nothing in the ruins. At this moment, Zishang suddenly said, I know how to get out of this maze. Really? Yin Jioge hurriedly turned his head. However, Zishang flicked his finger, and the overlord flower that was chewing on the fat old man's corpse sensibly took its food away. On the ground where the fat old man was lying, a red circular token appeared out of nowhere. Kill people and take their lives. This is the condition to pass. Zishang took the red circular token into his hand, and tossed it to Yin Jioge. Yin Jioge carefully examined the token. The surface of the token was extremely smooth. The fat old man's soul was struggling desperately inside. As long as you feed this token to the wall, you will be able to leave the maze. Zishang gestured for Yin Jioge to try. Yin Jioge held the token, and carefully touched the wall. The blood-colored wall squirmed, and countless bloody mouths appeared, squeezing toward Yin Jioge with all their might. Yin Jioge hurriedly retreated. After taking 3 steps, the bloody mouths disappeared, and the wall returned to its original state. Could this be another trap? For example, the more people we kill, the more terrifying the wall will become? The Lu sisters asked anxiously. Probably not. Yin Jioge believed in Zishang's judgment. But the Lu sisters were still a little hesitant. As an evil cultivator, if you can't do as you please, what's the point of cultivating? Zishang's cold and emotionless words enlightened the Lu sisters. They had discussed and obtained the pass to enter the illusion realm, preserving their complete strength, and gaining a great advantage in the maze. However, if they still wanted to use tricks like the previous illusion realm, they would instead fall into the trap of their inner demons. Cultivation was originally like rowing a boat against the current. Only by eliminating all obstacles would one be able to move forward. Seeing that the Lu sisters had thought it through, Zishang turned and left. Senior Marshal Brother, is Senior Zombie unhappy? Lu Towner quietly came over and asked. Senior Zombie looked especially fierce today, making it hard for people to get close to him. Who knows what's wrong with him now? Yin Jioga also didn't understand what Zishang was thinking. Lu Tianer and her sister looked at each other and didn't dare to ask anymore. The more time they spent with Yin Jioga, the more they felt that this 1,000-year-old senior zombie was very strange. Not only could he talk, scold, and lose his temper, but he also knew many other things. If it wasn't for the death aura on his body, the two sisters definitely wouldn't believe that he was a zombie. It was unknown whether it was because the maze was too big, or because there were too few people. But Yin Jioga and the others didn't see a single person after walking for 4 hours. Let's rest for a while. Yin Jioga saw the Lu sisters' foreheads sweating, so he suggested resting. Okay. The Lu sisters' cultivation was lower than Yin Jioga's, and they didn't specialize in body tempering. After walking for so long, they were indeed tired, so they sat down and drank some water to adjust their breathing. Yin Jioga drank some water and found that Zishang was in a daze again. He felt inexplicably angry. At this time, the Overlord flower on Lu Meier's shoulder suddenly jumped to the ground. Its demonic eyes flickered with a red light, and it danced with joy, as if it had found something good. Chapter 380. The Tyrant Flower Smells Blood. Lu Meier immediately stood up. After passing through the ravine with the Tyrant Flower, she pointed to the left passage and said, "It's in that direction. Let's go and take a look." Lu Tianer's spirit was lifted. After walking for so long, she finally found a pass. Let's go. Yin Jioga also wanted to leave this damned place as soon as possible. Ever since Zishang had entered this labyrinth, he had been acting strangely. He was so cold that she almost couldn't recognize him anymore. Zishang's handsome face did not have any expression as he instantly entered the Yin corpse state, following behind Yin Jioga with a dark expression. Yin Jioga and the others passed through 2 passages, and the smell of blood became stronger. Not far away, a black-robed male cultivator lay on the ground covered in blood. His life aura was extremely weak, no different from a corpse. Yin Jioga signaled to Lu Meier with his eyes. The Lu sisters were also overjoyed in their hearts. This was simply a good thing, like a pie falling from the sky. However, for the sake of caution, the Lu sisters did not rashly go up. Instead, they commanded the Overlord flower to quietly walk over. Drooling, the Tyrant flower floated over with its 2 feet off the ground. It was about to drag the fresh food to a corner and eat it. A small black sword suddenly burst out from the male cultivator's body. It abruptly pierced through the Overlord flower's body, then continued to shoot towards Yin Jioga with a black shadow. Yin Jioga immediately summoned the evil saber. 5 rays of red light interweaved to form a defensive net, finally blocking the black saber. Lu Meier felt extremely distressed as she recalled the Overlord flower. There was a large hole in the Tyrant flower's stomach, and the blood essence it had obtained from devouring the fat old man was slowly floating out. Fortunately, its brain was fine. Seeing that Yin Jioga could handle it, Lu Meier concentrated on infusing her spiritual energy to repair the Overlord flower's belly. Yin Jioga's evil blade and the small black sword were locked in battle. Zishang didn't make a move. Instead, he looked at the black-robed male cultivator thoughtfully. He then extended a finger and pointed forward, sending a wisp of death chi toward the black-robed corpse. The small black sword instantly flew back to protect its master. After splitting apart the death chi, the slender figure of a woman in white emerged from the tip of the sword. She hugged the male cultivator and turned around to run away. What was that just now? For some reason, Yin Jioga felt that the woman in white was very dangerous. That's the sword spirit, Zishang said before turning invisible again. Yin Jioga didn't notice that Zishang was turning invisible again. She was just shocked to think that the legendary sword spirit looked like this. It was a pity that she did not see what she looked like. That's not right. Why does that small black sword feel so familiar? It's like I've seen it somewhere before. Just as Yun Jioga was trying to recall where he had seen the small black sword, he saw the small black sword carrying the male cultivator back, at an even faster speed. Behind it came the sound of chaotic footsteps and excited shouts. Here, here. Yun Jioga looked from afar, and saw the middle-aged swordsman, who had teased her to cooperate with him, rushing over with 3 Central Plains cultivators. When the middle-aged swordsman saw Yun Jioga and the others, he immediately stopped and said with a sinister smile, "I didn't expect you fellows to be able to avoid the blood spirit array. I didn't think that you fellows would come here to deliver passage tokens. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just enough." Yun Jioga did not have a favorable impression of these cultivators from the Central Plains who deceived ordinary cultivators. If they ran into each other, they would just kill them. After all, Zishang was here. Ha, 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 3 Qi condensation realm cultivators dared to threaten us. The middle-aged cultivator roared with laughter. He pointed at the male cultivator lying in the corner that the small black sword had placed. "Your backer has already been killed by us. What other skills do you have?" "Backer?" Yun Jioga was stunned, but she quickly thought of a possibility. Could that male corpse be Wanli Mingxian? That's right, she remembered. When the Ying corpse puppet ran out of control and met Wanli Mingxian, it was that small black sword that flew out to block their sneak attack. It really is senior brother Wanli, he's not dead yet. The Lu sisters finally recognized him. They couldn't be blamed for being blind. At that time, Wanli Mingxian was lying on the ground with his face covered in blood, so it was hard for them to recognize him. "This brat's heart has already been injured by us, he's not far from death. As long as you give me his sword, not only will I let you live, I'll even give you 3 passage tokens." In order to prove his words, the middle-aged swordsman took out 3 round red tokens. Each token had a sealed divine soul. "I want them." Yun Jioga stared at the tokens. If there were 3 of them, it would be enough for Wanli Mingxian. "If you want them, then give them to me." The middle-aged cultivator revealed a proud and contemptuous smile. The Central State cultivators had studied the ruins for 3 years, so they had made ample preparations before coming in. No matter what checkpoint they met, they would be able to smoothly gather together, so collecting the tokens was very smooth. Until they met Wanli Mingxian. Although he was only at the early Foundation establishment realm, his methods were not ordinary, and he had even refined a sword spirit. They had lost 3 Middle Foundation establishment realm cultivators to heavily injure him, but they never thought that he would be saved by the sword spirit at the critical moment. This sword spirit was a bit strange, so he did not dare try it. So he took out the passage tokens to tempt Yun Jioga, wanting to use them to obtain the sword spirit. "Alright, then you can take it." Yun Jioga formed a seal, and the evil blade instantly condensed into a blood-red long blade that slashed at the small cultivator on the left. The Lu sisters also targeted a tall, thin and elegant Foundation establishment realm cultivator. They controlled the Overlord flower and pounced forward. The middle-aged cultivator never thought that Yun Jioga and the others would dare to attack. He was shocked and angry as he shouted, "You're courting death." He raised his blood-wind sword and was about to attack, but he discovered that a gray aura of death had appeared out of nowhere. It stuck to his blood-wind sword and stabbed into the chest of his comrade. His comrade subconsciously released his magic weapon to block it, but it was also guided by the aura of death and stabbed into his opponent's chest. The middle-aged cultivator's eyes widened as he looked at his comrade. Even when he died, he did not understand what had happened. Zishang curled his finger and put away their magic weapons, storage bags and passage tokens. Then, he watched Yun Jioga and the others fight. Yun Jioga fought very smoothly against the Foundation establishment realm cultivators, who were a level higher than him. The evil blade appeared and disappeared like a ghost, and from time to time, he would use the devouring spirit bloodlust skill. On the other hand, the thin Foundation establishment realm cultivator was worried and anxious about his comrade's death, so he made many mistakes and was quickly suppressed by Yun Jioga. The Lu sisters fought steadily. Lu Tian'er did not even activate her 9 Hell Dao body. She only controlled the Overlord flower to attack with her sister. The Overlord flower had devoured the flesh and blood of a few Middle Foundation establishment realm cultivators during this period of time. It did not have time to properly absorb the energy stored in its body, so it was initially suppressed by the thin Foundation establishment realm cultivator. But as the fight progressed, the energy was mobilized by the two cores and flowed quickly in its body. Finally, it turned into a thick red light and formed the image of a tall ape behind it. Chapter 381. The Lu sisters also noticed the change in the Overlord flower's form. Overjoyed, they cooperated even more smoothly. Roar! The Overlord flower's demon eye discovered the opponent's weakness. It opened its mouth and spat out a red light as thick as an arm. It finally killed the opponent. At the same time, Yin Joga's evil sword cut off the opponent's head. Ever since Evil Sword killed the Lizard Man family, it loved chopping off people's heads. Yin Joga could not stop it. Evil Sword sucked its prey dry in satisfaction. Then it lazily flew back into Yin Joga's storage bag. The Overlord flower also began to eat happily. Yin Joga turned to look at Wanli Mingxian. He wanted to help him check, but he was afraid that the sword spirit would go crazy. Although the sword spirit was invisible, the small black sword was still hovering above Wanli Mingxian in a defensive posture. What do we do? Yin Joga asked Zishang, who also liked to be invisible. This sword spirit is very conscious. If you show her kindness, she will know. Zishang was highly reliant on this sword spirit. Alright, I'll try. Yin Joga looked at the small black sword nervously and tried his best to show his good intentions. I'm Wanli Mingxuan's friend. He's severely injured right now. I have to examine him before I can treat his injuries. Can you let me go over? The small black sword did not budge. He's bleeding. He needs some medicine and stitches. Yin Joga took out the blood-staunching elixir and showed it to the small black sword. The small black sword actually flew over and circled around. It seemed to recognize the blood-staunching elixir. The tip of the sword moved up and down. Step by step, Yin Joga slowly walked toward Wanli Mingxian. The small black sword allowed Yin Joga to walk to Wanli Mingxuan's side. However, the tip of the sword was pointed at her. It looked like it would kill her if anything went wrong. Yin Joga heaved a sigh of relief. Then she squatted down to check Wanli Mingxuan's body. She found that his body was covered in bloody holes. More than half of his blood had flowed out. Many of his wounds were covered in a cold aura. It was impressive that he could last until now. The cold aura was caused by the blood-sucking evil weapon. The evil weapon was of a very high grade. Normal pills could not remove it at all. However, Yin Joga had the white-boned monkey, which loved to eat Yin Qi. Senior Sword Spirit, I need to use the mystic Yin white-boned monkey to suck out the Yin spirit aura from Wanli Mingxuan's body. Otherwise, I won't be able to bandage his wounds. Yin Joga took out the white-boned monkey and waved it in front of the black sword. The small black sword shook up and down, nodding in agreement. Only then did Yin Joga wake up the skeleton monkey and let it work. The little skeleton monkey's soul flame glowed faintly, and its lower jaw cracked. It seemed to be very unhappy. It had also been locked up in a small dark room for a long time. There was no Yin Qi and no benefits. There was no way for it to work for free, unless it was given 2 bottles of Yin gathering pills. Yin Joga looked at the little skeleton monkey's 2 little white paws, and his veins twitched. In the end, he still gave in. Fine. I'll give it to you. She didn't have the time to bargain with the little monkey. After eating the gathering Yin pill, the skeleton monkey happily shook its big head and started to work. The Yin spirit qi on Wanli Mingxuan's body slowly disappeared under the white-boned monkey's absorption. Yin Joga took out the thunderfire needle and started to sew up the wounds on his body. Then she transferred pure with spiritual qi into his body. Wanli Mingxuan's pale face finally regained some color. After drinking another bottle of spirit recovery pills, he finally woke up. Wanli Mingxian blinked his eyes. He looked at Yin Joga and the Lu sisters behind her, as though he didn't know where he was. There's no need to blink. You're still alive. Yin Joga pointed at the sharp little black sword behind her and said to Wanli Mingxian, "Can you put it away first?" That killing intent pierced her back. "Sorry, it doesn't have any ill intentions towards you. It's just too worried about me. Wanli Mingxian hurriedly apologized. Then, he turned his head and called out to the little black sword. Mother. The little black sword flew back to his body. Mother. Yin Juga's mouth twitched, and she said, "This sword of yours has a very special name. That sword spirit is my mother." Wanli Mingxuan's face was still a little pale. Even sitting up from the ground was very difficult. Yin Juga raised her eyebrows. Although she was a little curious, she didn't continue to ask about Wanli Mingxuan's privacy. Instead she asked, "How did you get in?" "I killed my way in." Wanli Mingxian laughed bitterly. They, the Foreign Foundation establishment cultivators, had also been tricked into an array formation and had almost become sacrifices to open the door. Later, he suggested that everyone detonate their fire elemental Dharma artifacts at the same time. Only then did they break through the array formation and enter the ruins. "Oh yes, I already know what the treasure of this mystic realm is. It's a demonic cauldron that can refine everything in the world." This was the information Wanli Mingxian had obtained from the soul of a middle ground cultivator. Demonic cauldron? Yin Jioga immediately thought of the bronze cauldron that had sneaked away with Mischievous. Could the two be related? "That demonic cauldron is in the inner hall. We can enter if we pass the ruins test. However, I heard that apart from a group of mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivators, there are also 2 golden core cultivators who suppressed their cultivation to enter," Wanli Mingxian said solemnly. 2 golden core cultivators? Yin Juga's heart couldn't help but tremble. Although Zishang's current cultivation level was similar to that of a golden core cultivator, he could protect her. It would be difficult for him to protect the Lu sisters and the heavily injured Wanli Mingxian. The Lu sisters' faces instantly turned pale. A golden core cultivator was like an insurmountable mountain to them. They couldn't even muster the courage to challenge it. "Is it too late to leave the ruins now?" Lu Meier asked nervously. Originally, she wanted to kill the evil old monster with her own hands. Now that she thought about it, it was better to stay alive first. "If we want to leave the ruins, we can only go to the inner hall." Wanli Mingxian shook his head. His usually cheerful and handsome face was also filled with worry. He had originally thought that this was just a small ruins. With his strength and equipment, it would be a piece of cake for him to come in and fish out some treasures. He didn't expect the waters to be so deep. In the illusion, he had successfully defeated the monster. However, he didn't expect to encounter a group of middle ground cultivators not long after entering the maze. He was almost killed when they surrounded him. If he hadn't met Yin Juga and the others in time, he wouldn't have survived even with his mother's protection. "Let's leave the maze first. It's best if we can reach the inner hall before those 2 golden core cultivators and find a way to leave the ruins." Yin Juga immediately made a decision. All right. The Lu sisters nodded repeatedly. They weren't interested in any treasures at the moment. The Overlord Flower had eaten so many Foundation establishment cultivators with abundant spiritual energy in the middle ground. It was already a great deal. Wanli Mingxian didn't have any objections. He was seriously injured this time and had already lost the ability to fight for treasures. It would be good if he could leave alive. Chapter 382. Yin Joga distributed the passes to the Lu sisters and Wanli Mingxian, then fed them to the mouths on the blood wall. The blood-red wall shook violently after eating the pass, and a red passageway appeared on the wall. Yin Joga and the others entered one by one and finally left the maze. In the depths of the labyrinth, an old lady with a dragon head cane, wearing a luxurious robe and an emerald green spirit stone forehead cloth, was wandering around the labyrinth with a pretty girl. The old lady's surname was Shi, and people in Zhongzhou called her Old Lady Shi. She was at the early stage of Gold Core, and her granddaughter, Yusha, was at the middle stage of Foundation establishment. "Grandmother, we haven't seen Uncle Meng and the others after walking for so long. Could something have happened to them?" Yusha's delicate and beautiful face was filled with worry. In order to enter the ruins, Grandma had taken a secret medicine that suppressed her cultivation. Now she was only at the high level of the building foundation realm. It was not safe for her to have no helpers by her side. Elder Meng is a steady man. He won't get into trouble so easily. Besides, old Demon One has also suppressed his cultivation like me. He won't dare to make a move recklessly. You don't have to worry too much. The old lady strolled along the passage with the help of her walking stick. She looked calm and steady. You're right, Grand Ancestor. Yusha's heart calmed down slightly. However, he suddenly realized that the blood wall was emitting waves of intense fluctuations. The old lady, who had been calm and composed a moment ago, could not help but frown. Someone has entered the inner hall through the maze. Could it be someone from old Devil Wan's side? Yusha quickly asked. It's possible. The old lady nodded. This time, it was mainly her and old Devil Wan's people who entered the ruins. Then shouldn't we hurry up? Otherwise, it'll be troublesome if old Demon One gets there first, Yusha said anxiously. Silly girl, what's the rush? The old lady patted her granddaughter's hand affectionately and said in a teaching tone. So what if we let him enter the inner hall early? If that treasure was so easy to get, how could he have survived until today? We'd better find Elder Meng and the others according to the plan and enter the inner hall together. This is the safest way. The same question rang out from the other end of the maze. A tall man with red hair also suspected that old Madame Yu's men had entered the inner hall first. He maintained the thought of finding his subordinates first and continued to wander around the maze. The two gold core ancestors were not in a hurry to leave the maze, so Yun Jioga and the others arrived at the inner hall safely. Under Zishang's guidance, they quickly found the teleportation array to leave the ruins. Because the Middle Continent cultivators hadn't caught up to them yet, Yun Jioga and the others weren't in a hurry to leave. Instead, they wanted to get as much as they could before leaving. As he walked, he arrived at a large hall. In front of him was a red wilderness, and above his head was the vast night sky, filled with large patches of fiery clouds. Countless small stars were hidden within the fire cloud, emitting the unique glow of a top-grade magic artifact. However, the most eye-catching thing was the giant cauldron in the middle of the galaxy. It was pitch black and surrounded by fiery clouds. It occupied most of the sky. Without a doubt, it was the demonic cauldron. Is this the demonic tripod? The Lu sisters looked at the tripod in the sky excitedly. The ones beside the treasures were definitely not ordinary either. If he could pick one up, he would be rich. Moreover, they had already found the location of the transmission array, so if they grabbed a treasure and left, they wouldn't have to worry about being chased by those gold core old monsters. Wanli Mingxian looked at the cauldron drooling. He couldn't help but say, should we go up and take a look? Yeah, even if we can't get it, it's good to see the world. The Lu sisters stared unblinkingly at the sky. Their entire attention was deeply attracted. Yin Jioga looked at Zishang. To be honest, she was a little tempted too. If you can fly up, you'll be lucky. Zishang didn't comment. He just looked like he was watching a good show. Whoever wants to go up can go up and see for themselves. I'll protect you from below. Yin Jioga thought it was better not to take the risk. Let me try. Wanli Mingxian couldn't resist the temptation. He released his small black sword and wanted to fly up. Unexpectedly, after flying 2 meters, there was a huge suction from the ground. With a bang, he fell off the sword. The Lu sisters, who had wanted to try, turned green in the face. If he fell from the sky, he would be smashed into a meat patty. Forget it. Seems like I'm not destined to get rich. Wanli Mingxian climbed up from the ground with difficulty. He was already injured. Even though the fall wasn't heavy, it was still very painful. It was also because of this pain that he woke up from his infatuation with the treasure. Senior brother Wanli is right. Let's hurry up and leave. Otherwise we'll get greedy. The Lu sisters looked away from the light screen with difficulty. They regretted coming here. If they didn't see it, they wouldn't be hurt. If they left, it wouldn't be so painful. Then let's go. Yin Jioga was very open-minded. If it was hers, it was hers. There was no point in stealing it, because this small teleportation formation could only teleport one person at a time. The Lu sisters left first. Wanli Mingxian was next, and Yin Jioga was last. After teleporting out, We'll leave the Central Plains as quickly as possible. We'll meet up when we return to the Ainsol mountain range. The three of them made an agreement before teleporting. Then, they placed the spirit stones on the table and started the teleportation formation. The Lu sisters and Wanli Mingxian left successfully. Yin Zhouge was about to enter the teleportation formation when she was pulled back by Zishang. We haven't taken the treasure yet. Where do you want to go? Yin Zhouge was a little stunned. Zishang had been indifferent to the treasures in the ruins. She had no chance. Those people are too burdensome. Yin Zhouge was a loyal person. He would never abandon them. That was why he found this teleportation formation to send them away. Now that the burdensome were gone, it was time to go all out. What do you plan to do? Yin Zhouge asked excitedly. Although she felt sorry for the Lu sisters and Wanli Mingxian, they were indeed a hindrance. Take the treasure and destroy the ruins. Zishang's gray eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness. The words that came out of his thin lips were cold. Yin Zhouge shivered inexplicably. She looked at Zishang carefully and said, "Does the owner of the ruins have a grudge against you?" "How do you know?" Zishang narrowed his eyes. His expression was unfriendly. "I guessed. You look like you have a deep grudge. I can guess it even with my toes." Zishang looked Yin Zhouge up and down, as if to confirm her words. "How did that guy offend you?" Yin Zhouge couldn't help but gossip. "Because he's cheap." Zishang's expression turned even colder. "Cheap?" Yin Zhouge's mouth twitched. That was a really thought-provoking word. "Alright, cut the crap. Take the treasure. Since that guy created the ruins, he had to destroy it." Alright. Yin Zhouge expressed her agreement. Chapter 383. Since they were going to take the treasure, they naturally had to hide their identities. It would be troublesome if they were discovered. Therefore, Yin Zhouge disguised herself as the towering man Zishang had killed. If they were discovered, it would cause a civil war in the Central Plains. Zishang seemed to have gotten some inspiration. Purple light flashed and he turned into a middle-aged scholar. He held a ruler filled with evil spirits. It was the Lu sisters' enemy, the wicked old monster. Good move. Yin Zhouge gave a thumbs up. Even if the wicked old monster could leave the ruins alive, he would definitely be hunted to the ends of the earth. Let's go. Zishang saw that Yin Zhouge couldn't forget about the wicked old monster. He wanted to help her fulfill her wish. But for safety's sake, Zishang put on a black robe and stuck an advanced invisibility talisman on Yin Zhouge. Then, he left the teleportation formation and returned to the Skyland. There were two groups of people standing in the center of the Skyland. Old Lady Sher was on the left, while Old Demon Wan was on the right. Old Demon Wan, we haven't taken the treasure yet. If we fight to the death now, won't it benefit others? Old Lady Sher's dragon head walking stick emitted a black mist that enveloped her people. What do you plan to do? Old Demon Wan's red hair danced in the air. He held two fiery rings in his hands, emitting waves of heat. Even his people didn't dare to get close. We'll take turns and take the demonic tripod first. Old Lady Sher already had a plan. It belongs to whoever gets it. Old Demon One squinted his slightly red eyes. Even if I tell you that, you won't believe me. Let's take the demonic tripod first. It belongs to whoever gets it. Old Lady Sher didn't want to play tricks. Old Demon One wouldn't believe her anyway. Okay, we'll see after the demonic tripod comes down. Old Demon One agreed. They were all familiar with each other. Even if they couldn't fight in the ruins, they could fight outside. It was better than fighting to the end and getting nothing. In that case, you guys go first. Old Lady Sher said and retreated 10 feet with her people, giving Old Demon One the wilderness. Old Devil One didn't stand on ceremony, and immediately got his subordinates into a defensive formation. Then he slapped his spirit beast bag, and dozens of red shadows flew out, turning into various fire-type spirit beasts. There were 12 lizards in the outermost circle, 6 fire-striped snakes in the innermost circle, and a fire jade spider in the middle. It had a fiery red body, white slender legs, and demon patterns clearly visible. It was actually a 5th-ranked demon beast, close to the gold core stage. Go! Old Devil One ordered. The flame jade spider opened its mouth and ate all the offerings around it. Then it spat out countless rays of red and white light into the sky. When the light landed on the demonic tripod, it turned into a tough spider web and bound the tripod tightly. Pull! Old Devil One poured a bottle of fiery red pills into the fiery jade spider's mouth, and the fiery jade spider pulled the spider silk backwards. Waves of fluctuations came from the quiet sky. The fiery clouds were shattered, and countless black flames fell down. Protect! Old Devil One threw out a fiery ring. It turned into a red halo that protected everyone's heads, swallowing all the falling black flames. The fiery jade spider retreated step by step. The huge demonic tripod shook violently and left the sky bit by bit. Grandmother! Yusha grew nervous. Granny Sure's lips curled up and she said softly, "It's not that simple." As soon as she said that, the rain of fire grew heavier. The halo's capacity was limited, so Old Devil One had to throw another one up. The fiery jade spider's body was blood red. It became more and more difficult to move back, and the red and white spider silk tightened. Old Devil One was extremely nervous. He poured another bottle of pills into the fiery jade spider's mouth and forced it to continue retreating. The fiery jade spider retreated a few more steps with difficulty, but the red and white spider silk suddenly broke. The demonic tripod returned to the spear, shaking off countless red flames. The fiery jade spider wailed and lay on the ground motionlessly. It suffered a strong backlash, and its organs were injured. It died instantly. Old Devil One looked at the demonic tripod with a livid expression. He had used a secret technique to make this fiery jade spider grow, but he still couldn't get the demonic tripod down. What a pity. Just a little bit more. Granny Sure sighed and shook her head. She really hoped that Old Devil One could get the demonic tripod down. That way, she would have a better chance to snatch it. Old Devil One didn't say anything. He retreated to the side with his people and stared at Granny Sure. Granny Sure went up with her people and released 2 rainbow-colored silkworms. They were only level 4, but they were stronger than the fiery jade spider she had just matured. The rainbow-colored silkworms spat out 2 beams of rainbow light that wrapped around the demonic tripod. With one pull, the demonic tripod was pulled out of the sky. The sky shook, and countless rain of fire fell crazily. Granny Sure and the others couldn't resist in time. Many were burned by the fire. Old Devil One, if you keep watching like this, you can forget about getting the demonic tripod forever. Granny Sure pretended to take back the rainbow-colored silkworms. Old Devil One hesitated. In the end, he felt that the demonic tripod was more important. He ordered his people to help Granny Sure, and the others resist the rain of fire. Zishang and Yin Jioga waited quietly on the side, waiting for a chance to attack. Just then, a childish voice sounded beside Yin Jioga. "Master, is that you? You finally found me, Master?" Yin Jioga had thought it was a treasure-seeking scorpion, but the voice was very clear and didn't sound like a treasure-seeking scorpion. Following that, her mind buzzed, and her divine sense was pulled into darkness. "Mistress!" A chubby black-skinned mouse ran towards her from afar. "Pippy Mouse, where did you go?" Yin Jioga was about to go up. Pippy Mouse started to transform as it ran. In the end, it turned into a chubby, soft and cute 5-year-old baby. The baby was chubby and had soft black short hair. His skin was white and tender. He wore a fitted black suit and was very cute. However, there were 2 short horns on his head. Demon! Yin Jioga was so scared that she wanted to turn and run. "Sob, sob, sob, Master, don't abandon me. I'm not a demon." The baby rushed up and hugged Yin Jioga's thigh tightly. "I'm your artifact spirit." "Since when did I have a demonic artifact spirit?" Yin Jioga said, but she still stopped running. When it came to treasures, she had always been very tolerant of them. "Sob, sob, sob. I wasn't a demonic artifact. It's all that perverted Wan Sha's fault. He refined me into a demonic artifact." The baby continued to cry. "Wait, who is Wan Sha?" Yin Jioga frowned. "Where did this person come from?" "Wan Sha is a big bad guy." The little baby pouted his red lips and said fiercely, "Even if he used to be your lover, I still hate him. He dared to seal me in this damn place. It was not easy for me to run out with a bit of my divine sense and possess the black-skinned mouse to find you. Unfortunately, that black-skinned mouse was too weak and could not communicate with you. Wait, you said Wan Sha was my lover. Then who is Zishang? Yin Juga asked. Currently, Zishang was the only one she had an affair with. How did another Wan Sha appear? Lord Zishang is your guardian. In the words of the human race, he's your wife. Wan Sha is just your lover. The little guy's words were shocking. Yin Juga was shocked. Chapter 384. What wife? What lover? What nonsense are you talking about? How dare he slander her reputation? She would beat him to death. I'm not talking nonsense. It's true. Wan Sha, that pervert, couldn't find you. So he captured me and refined me into a demonic artifact. He even said that you would like me like this. Sob, he must be lying. I'm a medicine puppet that you personally made. How could you dislike the old me? The little baby started crying again. Yin Jyoga's head hurt from the baby's crying. Just as she was about to ask him more questions, her head buzzed, and she regained consciousness. What's wrong? Zishang looked at Yin Jyoga worriedly. Nothing. Yin Jyoga couldn't tell Zishang that she'd met a child out of nowhere, and said that the child was her wife, and that she had a perverted lover. Zishang looked at her coolly and didn't continue asking. Instead, he pointed outside and said, "They're about to succeed." There was a rain of fire outside, and all kinds of spirit lights flashed. Madame Sure and Old Demon One stood at one side and focused on driving the spirit beasts. At the crucial moment, Old Demon One had released a fire jade spider to pull the demonic sky tripod with Madame Sure. The demonic sky tripod had been pulled out of the sky. The color pattern was very similar to Yin Jyoga's bronze tripod, but it looked more advanced. Yin Jyoga immediately threw the strange baby to the back of his mind and prepared to attack. Zishang's fake ruler glowed faintly. He was already aiming at the demonic sky tripod. At this time, the demonic sky tripod suddenly spat out countless sparks and broke free. Then, it turned and leaped towards Yin Jyoga. Yin Jyoga's eyes widened as he looked at the round little cauldron, which was glowing with a fiery light. Then, the little cauldron pounced at him with an expression, as if it had found its baby. Zishang reached out and grabbed the tripod. The remaining sparks broke the invisibility talisman on Yin Jyoga. Even Zishang was revealed. Yin Jyoga was stunned. He'd wanted to be an Oriole, but had been exposed early. Wouldn't he become a target? Madame Sure and Old Demon One looked in shock at the two black-robed people who suddenly appeared in the corner of the screen. Demonic tripod. Yusha screamed. An ominous glint flashed across Granny Sure's eyes. She slammed her walking stick down hard, and a black flood dragon soul flew out, baring its fangs and claws at Yin Jyoga. Zishang tossed out the disciplinary ruler in his hand, and a purple mist burst forth to bind the black WIRM. Next, he picked up Yin Jyoga and ran toward the teleportation portal. The black flood dragon seemed to be extremely afraid of the purple mist. It shivered and flew back into Granny Sure's walking stick. Old Lady Sure was shocked. She used a real flood dragon, which was incomparably strong and sharp. How could it be scared away by a mere purple mist? How is this possible? Put those things down. Old Devil One roared as he threw out the two red rings in his hands. His rings had just absorbed a large amount of fire rain, turning into two dark red fireballs that were incomparably ferocious. The surging heat waves caused the air to distort. Zishang Zhao didn't even turn his head. Two purple spirit arrows shot at the dark red fireball, and two clouds of purple mist burst out to block the attack. Old Devil One was infuriated too. He made a hand seal and detonated the two dark red fireballs. The violent, huge, and terrifying shockwaves caused the entire inner hall to tremble. Zishang Zhao held Yin Jyoga and turned around, holding her tightly in his arms. The powerful shockwaves broke through Zishang Zhao's protective purple mist, sending him and Yin Jyoga flying. Zishang, are you okay? Yin Jyoga wasn't hurt by the shockwaves, but she could feel the terrifying power. Zishang wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. Without a word, he carried Yin Jyoga and rushed into the teleportation portal. Yin Joga placed the spirit stones on it as fast as she could. The portal lit up. By the time Granny Sure and Old Devil Juan brought people over, the portal was already empty. On a barren mountain 50 miles away from Middle Ground, Yin Joga walked out of the teleportation portal weakly. Zishang followed behind him, holding the demonic tripod. He turned around and destroyed the portal. This is the treasure from the ruins? Yin Joga looked at the bronze tripod in Zishang's hand. Yes. Zishang nodded and said, there's a space for growing herbs inside. In the future, if you want to detoxify, you can cultivate your own herbs. Yin Joga's eyes lit up. The 9-stage bone shatterer poison in her body was like a chain wrapped around the wound on her neck. If she could remove this chain, her cultivation would definitely be faster. But how did Zishang know there was a space inside the demonic tripod? Master it. Zishang tossed the bronze tripod to Yin Joga. There was no joy on his handsome face. Instead, it was cold. Yin Joga hesitated. This is the demonic tripod. Will it hurt me? No, it won't hurt you. Though Zishang looked very familiar with the tripod, he didn't say anything else. He just told Yin Joga to make him master. Alright. Yin Joga thought of the cute baby she'd met in the ruins. Perhaps it could give her an answer. So she bit her finger and dripped blood onto the bronze demonic tripod. The demonic tripod flashed. It couldn't wait to recognize her as its master. Yin Joga's sea of consciousness entered the demonic tripod. What she saw was a vast field. A spirit spring surrounded it, and the spirit chi was very rich. Master, I knew that you would save me. A child's voice sounded. Then the horned baby appeared before Yin Joga. It's really you. Yin Joga pursed her lips. Honestly, she didn't have a good impression of it. Master, I'm your most loyal artifact spirit. How can you dislike me? The baby sensed Yin Joga's displeasure. He pouted and was about to cry again. Stop crying. Yin Joga's head hurt when she heard him cry. She quickly asked, do you know Zishang? Of course, I'm just sealed, not destroyed. The little baby pouted, looking insulted. How do you know him? Yin Joga asked again. Because you know him, of course. The baby tilted his head, looking innocent. Then how do you know me? Of course, it's because you are my master. The little cute baby blinked his eyes. Wasn't it a matter of course to know his own master? I don't know you at all. How can I be your master? Yin Joga immediately felt a headache. Was the way she asked the wrong question, or was the baby an idiot? Master, you lost your memory after reincarnating. It's normal that you can't recognize me. The baby finally gave an answer that Yin Joga was interested in. Chapter 385. Reincarnation? Do you mean that I was your master in my previous life? Yin Joga continued to ask. It can't be my previous life. The little baby counted his fingers and said with some uncertainty. It seems like it was 10,000 years ago, or 5,000 years ago. It's too long, I don't remember. Something that happened 10,000 years ago. Yin Joga couldn't even remember what happened before she transmigrated, let alone the history from so long ago. Yes, Master used to be very powerful. Everyone was afraid of you. The little baby had a face of nostalgia. Then, he touched the little black horn on his head dejectedly and said hatefully, if it was in the past, Wan Sha definitely wouldn't dare to bully me like this. Who is Wan Sha? Don't talk about lover anymore. I want specific information, identity, age, appearance, and cultivation. Yin Joga thought of Zishang saying that the owner of the ruins was his enemy. Could it be this Wan Sha? I can't say. Wan Sha set up a restriction, unless you can remove his restriction. The little baby looked pitifully at his extremely weak master in front of him. If it wasn't for the fact that the aura was very familiar, and the taste of the blood was very pure, he really couldn't believe that his master, who was once so powerful that all races were afraid of him, would actually be so weak. The chi refinement stage was even weaker than an ant. His poor master. Then I'll go ask Zishang. Yin Joga had already developed the habit of looking for Zishang whenever he didn't understand anything. Don't. You must not mention Wan Sha in front of Lord Zishang. He will go crazy and kill people. Maybe he won't even let you go. The little baby was so scared that his face turned pale and his hair stood up. How is that possible? Zishang would kill her? What kind of joke was this? Please, which man is willing to share his beloved woman with others? You are so weak now. Lord Zishang can strangle you with one finger. Don't look for trouble. The little baby was really anxious. His voice was as sharp as a hen that was being strangled. He was a little hysterical. Did I really have an affair with that one Shah in the past? Yin Jioge looked suspiciously at the adorable little baby. In her heart, Zishang was perfect, domineering, strong and fierce. Which man could pass over him to seduce her? The little baby was probably stimulated by Yin Jioge's gaze. He stamped his feet and shouted, "Not just one Shah. Master, you used to have a lot of lovers, okay? The human clan, the monster clan, the beast clan, the spirit clan, the devil clan. How is this possible?" Yin Jioge's eyes widened. Even if she was the founder of the Joyous Union sect in her past life, it was impossible for her to sleep with all the races in the world. It's true. Master, you used to be the continent's most valiant and honorable goddess. Every race had to offer you their most powerful and charming male. Lord Zishang is the strongest male among all the races. You admire him the most, and even conferred him the title of guardian. When the little baby talked about the glorious deeds of his master in the past, his little chest immediately puffed up, as if he was proud of it. Yin Jioge was now sure that this cute little kid must have recognized the wrong owner. What goddess? What lover? What offering from men? It was all a mess. Based on Zishang's attitude towards her in the past, it was more like she was his tribute. Yin Jioge was completely disappointed with the little baby. She decisively changed the topic and asked the little baby, "I heard that the space here can grow spiritual objects." "Yes, Master, you used to like alchemy and medicine the most, so you specially made a medicine garden. As long as there is enough spiritual power to support it, it can accelerate the growth of plants." The little baby immediately nodded. "Later, I will bring in a few dark spirit flowers. You can take a look at me." Yin Jioge needed not only the soul-shocking grass, but also 100-years-old dark spirit flower to get rid of the third layer of poison. Okay. The little baby patted his chest, indicating that there was no problem. After being sealed for so long, he finally got the attention of his master. He must do a good job. "By the way, what's your name?" Yin Jioge still didn't know the little baby's name. "My name is Menghua. This is the name that master personally gave me." The little baby pouted, feeling sad that his master had forgotten his name. Okay. Although this name was very similar to her style of naming, she would never admit that she was its lecherous owner based on this point alone. "Master Zishang is calling you. Go out now. Remember, don't mention Wan Sha's name," the little baby quickly said. Yin Jioge didn't deny it. Her divine consciousness left the demonic tripod and returned to her body. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw Zishang right in front of her. He was observing her without blinking, his hot breath on her face. "What are you doing?" Yin Jioge was shocked and subconsciously stepped back. Zishang grabbed her waist and let go after stabilizing her. He asked casually, "You were in the demonic tripod for so long. What did you ask?" "I just chatted with the artifact spirit inside." Yin Jioge thought of little Menghua's advice. In the end, he did not ask about Wan Sha. Instead, he tactfully said, "That artifact spirit was chubby and quite cute. I forgot to ask what its name was." Zishang looked at Yin Jioge deeply and said, "It's called Menghua. Although it's a bit stupid, it's quite loyal to you." Holy **T. Zishang really knew that artifact spirit. Yin Jioge laughed dryly. "Menghua is quite suitable for him. Let's go. There's more than one teleportation array in the ruins. Those 2 golden core cultivators will escape. Let's get out of here." Zishang clearly didn't want to discuss this. His handsome face was gloomy. Okay. Yin Jioge thought of old Demon Wan's crazy look and felt that they wouldn't let her go. She walked to Zishang's side and smelled a faint smell of blood. She quickly reached out to pull him. "Are you hurt? Don't touch me." Zishang reflexively dodged Yunjoga's hand. Seeing Yunjoga's shocked expression, he added, "I'm fine." He just suddenly remembered something bad. Although it had been a long time, thinking about it still made him feel pain. Oh, that's good. Yunjoga nodded randomly. She didn't even know how to look at Zishang. Could it be that what the little baby said was true? Had she really scummed Zishang in her previous life and gotten a bunch of lovers? But that was in her previous life. If he had the ability, he should have transmigrated back to deal with that scum. Why was he venting his anger on her in this life? Yunjoga thought of the first time she met Zishang. His flirtatious look was because he thought of her as his lover in her previous life. That was why he had teased and touched her. Now that he realized that she was different from the lover in her previous life, he regretted it and became cold. Damn, if that was the case, she was the scum. Chapter 386. Deep in the ruins, Old Demon Wan and Old Lady Sure stared at the teleportation formation. No, the people over there have already destroyed the teleportation formation. Yusha squatted down to check the teleportation formation and shook her head. Did you see who those two men in black were? Old Demon Wan said through gritted teeth. I think they were two middle-aged men. I've seen that ruler before. It belongs to an evil old monster from Yinling Mountains. They're at the middle stage of the foundation building realm, someone said immediately. Find him as soon as we get out. Old Demon One wanted to kill them. Old Lady Sure gave the same order, and parted ways with Old Demon One with her granddaughter, Yusha. Grandmother, are we just going to leave like this? Yusha was unwilling. They had spent so much effort to open the ruins and many of their men had died. It would be a great loss if they were to return empty-handed. The Savage Corp's secret realm was about to open. She was hoping to get a few treasures to protect herself. Silly girl, the demonic cauldron is gone, but there are other treasures. Let's split up and search carefully. We might find something. Old Lady Sure did not believe that she could not find other treasures in such a huge ruin. Then let's hurry up and search before Old Demon One gets there first. Yusha was an impatient person. She brought a few men and split up with her grandmother. She searched along the ruins, but found nothing. The ruins were empty as if it had been swept by locusts. It was so desolate that it was frightening. Yusha's pretty face was flushed with anger. She kept cursing the owner of the ruins for being a stingy person. Just then a deep and seductive voice rang in her ears. Come here, come here. Yusha was in a daze. She could not help but follow the voice. After passing through a long corridor, she finally arrived at a hidden room. In the dark room, there was a stone statue of a devil of the same height. It had horns like a sheep, black curly hair like seaweed, and its long and narrow eyes were pitch black. Its sexy lips were tightly pursed. Its body was strong and majestic, covered in black scales. It exuded an evil and powerful aura. At that moment, the devil statue's eyes were shining with a strange light. Yusha looked at the devil's eyes that were filled with magic and walked towards it. The devil statue's lips curled up, its expression extremely evil. When Yusha was in front of it, the statue suddenly collapsed. A thick black aura rushed into Yusha's forehead. Yusha shuddered and could not help but close her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, her pupils were pitch black like a bottomless lake, flickering with the light of magic. Goddess, I've waited for 5,000 years, and I finally found you again. Yusha murmured to herself as the corners of her rosy lips curled into a devilish smile. Her beautiful and delicate face was covered in a layer of black light. There was a strangeness in her beauty that made one shudder. At that moment, Yunjoga and Zishang were hurrying along. Are you hurt, or are you feeling unwell? Zishang looked at Yunjoga's listless appearance and couldn't help but care about her. You weren't injured, so how could I have been injured? Yunjoga's face was cold, and he didn't even look at him. Zishang knew Yunjoga was throwing a tantrum. After a moment of silence he said, I'm really fine. Those critical hits were nothing to me. Since you're fine, do you dare to let me have a look? Yunjoga stopped in his tracks. His black eyes were bright and determined. All right. Zishang gave in. Moreover, the sky was already dark, and he should find a place to rest. He found a secluded cave and set up a simple defensive formation before checking Yin Jioga's pulse. Yin Jioga's expression was solemn as he focused on checking Zishang's pulse. He immediately discovered that his pulse was very chaotic, and his body had clearly suffered a huge blow. Yet he said he was fine. "Take off your clothes." Yin Jioga's face was stern as he took out the thunderfire needles to perform acupuncture on him. Zishang didn't move as he stared straight at Yin Jioga. "What, are you afraid that I'll rape you?" Yin Jioga raised his brows. Although he was still wearing a disguise on his face, the domineering aura emanated from his bones. It was as if he was going to strip Zishang of his clothes if he didn't agree. If it was in the past, Zishang would have teased Yin Jioga a little when he heard him acting like a hooligan. Now, however, he took off his clothes without a word, revealing his well-defined, perfect body. His back was filled with red marks that looked like pits. Those were the fire poison left behind by old Demon Wan's ring of fire. Yin Jioga's heart ached. After inserting the needles into Zishang's body, she injected spirit energy to force the fire poison out. However, Zishang was now at the golden core stage, while she was only at the 7th stage of qi refinement. Why was she so weak? Yin Jioga felt defeated for the first time. "Don't be sad, I'm fine." Zishang stood up slightly and turned to comfort Yin Jioga. His eyes were filled with gentleness. "Which eye of yours saw that I'm sad? Lie down." Yin Jioga pressed Zishang back and continued to insert needles into him. "Circulate your spirit energy according to the order of my needles, and force the fire poison out together." Zishang didn't make a sound. Actually, his body was strong. Even if he ignored this injury, it would be forced out sooner or later. However, Yin Jioga was obviously in a bad mood. Zishang tactfully didn't continue to provoke her. Instead, he began to circulate his spirit energy according to her instructions. A little red fire poison was forced out. When it dripped onto the floor, it immediately emitted a faint white smoke. Yin Jioga's face was tense, as if she was angry with someone. The thunderfire needles were fast and accurate. The 2 tender green leaves on her body also emitted a faint green light. They followed behind the thunderfire needles to repair themselves. In less than the time it took to burn a stick of incense, Zishang had forced all the fire poison out. That strong and broad back returned to its original state. His white jade-like skin glowed with a moist light. It made people want to touch it just by looking at it. Yin Jioga knew how smooth and soft Zishang's skin was. It was like fine silk. Touching it was simply a pleasure. She couldn't help but want to reach out. But she heard Zishang's muffled voice. "Are you done?" "Oh, I'm done." Yin Jioga came back to her senses. She suddenly felt a little disdainful of herself. In the past, when Zishang opened his arms for her to touch, she didn't cherish it. Now that she was drooling, it was already too late. "Thank you." Zishang got up and put on his clothes. His gray hair fell on his handsome face. There was a sense of alienation and indifference. The thunderfire needles in Yin Jioga's hand paused. She looked up at him. There was a hidden bitterness in her tone that even she didn't notice. "You never said thank you in the past." Zishang looked down and said, "That was because I wasn't polite before. I ask for your forgiveness." "Forgiveness, my ass. What's wrong with you? Why are you acting so strange? If you have any dissatisfaction with me, then just say it." Yin Jioga was angry. "I just feel that I was too disrespectful to you before. It's not good, I'm sorry." Zishang's expression was still indifferent. With his gray hair and gray eyes, he looked as cold as a Yin corpse. Chapter 387. Sorry, my ass. Yin Jioga almost broke the lightning fire needle in her hand. She couldn't hold back the fire in her heart anymore. She grabbed Zishang's collar and said, "I'll say it here today. The previous life is the previous life, and this life is this life. Even if I let you down in my previous life, you can't blame this on me." Anyway, she definitely wouldn't take the blame for something she didn't do. "You remember?" Zishang looked a little nervous. His pupils had turned purple. "No, it was the little baby who told me." Just as Yin Yoga shook her head, the little baby's screams rang out in her mind. Master, how can you betray me? I will be killed by Lord Zishang. Yin Yoga ignored the little baby and stared at Zishang. She had to make things clear to him. Zishang sighed slightly. His light purple eyes stared straight at Yin Yoga and said seriously, You didn't let me down. Not in the past and not now. Then why are you still so weird? Yin Yoga frowned. Could the little baby have lied to her? She wasn't a scumbag in her previous life. Master, I didn't lie to you. You really have a lot of people to invite. The little baby continued to scream. Shut up. Yin Yoga shouted at the little baby. The little baby immediately didn't dare to make a sound. Because you were too powerful in the past. I'm afraid you'll remember what happened in the past and hit me. So from today onwards, you have to be an honest demon. Zishang suddenly smiled. He had the cunning and evil look from before. I don't need to remember what happened in the past. I can hit you now. Yin Yoga punched Zishang. Zishang's handsome face scrunched up, and he cooperated with a pained expression. Keep pretending. Yin Yoga couldn't help but punch him again. Zishang didn't resist. There was a doting smile on his light red lips. His gaze was very gentle, and there was a trace of sadness. It was as if he was looking through her. Yin Yoga felt uncomfortable. She wanted to punch him to death. However, it was too difficult. Yin Yoga thought about it, and held Zishang's face. She said seriously and persistently, No matter what I was like in my previous life in this life, if you don't abandon me, I will live and die with you. Zishang was stunned. He looked deeply into Yin Yoga's eyes, as if he wanted to see into her heart. Yin Yoga did not dodge. Ever since she transmigrated to this body, Zishang had always been by her side, protecting her, teaching her cultivation and thinking of her. Although Zishang was so hateful that people wanted to beat him to death, he was still very reliable most of the time. Yin Yoga did not know if this was love. She only knew that she hated it when Zishang looked at others through her. Not even her past self. She wanted to monopolize this hateful male demon, both physically and mentally. Alright, if you don't abandon me, I will be by your side in life and death. Zishang nodded. His eyes curved, and his handsome face shone like a peach blossom. It was like a wisp of spring breeze that blew into Yin Yoga's heart. After Yin Yoga relaxed, he immediately felt extremely exhausted. He could barely keep his eyes open. She slowly lay down beside Zishang, yawning as she said, Remember what you said. In the future, you're not allowed to think about anyone else other than me, not even my past life. As she spoke, her voice gradually became deeper and deeper, and she instantly entered the land of dreams. Zishang carefully held Yin Yoga in his arms. He touched her face with his palm, and revealed her true appearance. Beautiful and exquisite features, a pure and holy aura. She looked very much like she did in her past life. This woman had not awakened her memory, but she was still as domineering as before. When she burned, it was like a raging fire that could melt a person in an instant. And he still could not reject her. No, the two of them were still very different. In her past life, she was the only goddess in the world. She was omnipotent, domineering, and emotionless. She viewed outsiders as ants, and no one could leave a mark on her cold heart. In this life, Yin Yoga's cultivation was weak, and she had a stubborn personality. She was a little silly and a little soft. She was a person who cared a lot about her friends, and she was indebted to everyone who left a mark in her heart. No matter what you look like, I will always love you forever. Zishang's light red lips pressed lightly on Yin Yoga's smooth forehead, and there was a resolute light in the depths of his eyes. He had used all his luck to find her in front of everyone. In this life, he would definitely not give her to anyone. When Yin Yoga woke up, she felt refreshed. Just as she raised her head, Zishang planted a gentle kiss on her lips and said, Good morning. Morning. Yin Yoga wrapped her arms around Zishang's neck and kissed him back passionately. After the Cold War and awkwardness from before, she especially cherished Zishang's clinginess now. Let's dual cultivate. Zishang's nimble fingers unbuttoned Yin Yoga's clothes and slid across her smooth skin. Yin Yoga was also very enthusiastic and proactive. She had long been thinking about Zishang's strong abdominal muscles. It had been a long time since she touched them, and she really missed them. The two of them were very cooperative and proactive. Although it was only a very ordinary frontal position, the effects of dual cultivation were much smoother than before. Although Zishang was not able to release himself in the end, the two of them were incomparably satisfied when their minds intertwined. It was completely in the realm of spiritual and physical intertwining. After a hearty dual cultivation session, Yun Joga realized that she had advanced again. She was now at Qi refinement stage 8. When you get rid of the poison in your dantian, you will advance even faster in the future. Zishang reached out and touched Yun Joga's flat stomach. Previously, he was not very concerned about Yun Joga's detoxification. This was because he was worried that Yun Joga's cultivation would advance and unlock the seal in her mind. When she remembered everything in the past, would she abandon him again? But now, he was willing to believe in Yun Joga. When the poison in her body was completely removed, he had to have a child with her. Only then could she completely belong to him. By the way, the dark serene grass in the demonic tripod has already grown. We're just waiting for the Lu sisters' soul-shocking grass. Yun Joga gave the little baby a batch of spirit stones and quickly ripened the 300-year-old dark serene grass. Calculating the time, the soul-shocking grass should be ripe soon. He had to get rid of the poison in his body as soon as possible. There was still a fiend corpse mystic realm waiting for him at the Yin corpse sect. Then go ask them for it. Zishang carried Yun Joga and helped her put on her clothes. Ever since the two had confessed their feelings, Zishang's attitude towards her had changed a lot. He was more intimate and doting. He also liked to take care of her. He even had to do things like putting on her clothes himself. Seeing that he was happy, Yun Joga let him be. She was happy to slack off. After putting on her clothes, she took out the communication talisman and found that the Lu sisters and Wanli Mingxian had sent her many messages. They kept asking if she was safe. Yun Joga first replied to the Lu sisters and asked where they were. The Lu sisters quickly replied. They were in a workshop in Zhuozhou. Chapter 388. The left prefecture workshop was not far from here. Yun Joga and Zishang only spent 4 hours to arrive at the left prefecture. After she agreed on a meeting place with the Lu sisters, Zishang remained by her side invisible. Senior brother Yun Joga, it's great that you are fine. The Lu sisters were very excited to see Yun Joga. After they left the teleportation array, they had been waiting nearby. However, after waiting for a day and a night, Yun Joga still did not appear. He thought that something had happened to her. I came out right after you guys. However, due to some matters, I was delayed. Sorry for making you guys worry. Yun Joga smiled. Because she didn't want the Lu sisters to guess that she was in the ruins. She was worried about how to explain her delayed appearance. She didn't expect that the transmission array had several exits, and the three of them appeared in different places. It's good that you're all right. The Lu sisters shook their heads. How's the cultivation of the soul-shocking grass? Yun Joga asked Lu Tian'er. It seems to have matured. Lu Tian'er took out the small flower pot from her storage bag. The soil inside had turned dark, and the soul-shocking grass in the middle no longer had a frightened little face. Instead, it had a complete body, and it even had Lu Tian'er's Hades Taoist form. This is the first time I've seen such a soul-shocking grass in my life. What does senior brother plan to do with it? Lu Tian'er was also very curious about this thing and wanted to test its screaming ability. However, when she remembered that this treasure belonged to Yun Joga, she didn't dare to touch it. If it was damaged, he couldn't afford to pay for it. I plan to use it to detoxify the poison, Yun Joga said. Actually, after absorbing Lu Tian'er's netherworld Dao physique, this soul-shocking grass could be used to cultivate a grass Yin corpse. Zishang was after all a fake Yin corpse. The methods Yun Joga learned in the Yin corpse sect could not be used on him. Because Yun Joga didn't like corpses, Zishang thought about it, and finally came up with the idea of using soul-shocking grass to cultivate Yin corpses. Although it would take a long time, if he could successfully cultivate it, He would have a grass corpse that was even more powerful than a living corpse. I see. Lu Tian'er didn't suspect anything. After all, Yin Zhuge's corpse poison face was well known in the Yin corpse sect. Even a Yin spirit master couldn't remove it, so it was normal for him to use some strange herbs. Your netherworld Taoist body has been used to feed my soul-shocking grass. I don't have anything good to give you. You two sisters can take this cultivation method and practice it. Yin Zhuge gave the Lu sisters a copy of the secret method of twin girls. This cultivation technique was most suitable for the twins who had a telepathic connection. Not only could they achieve twice the results with half the effort, but they could also master a very powerful combined attack skill. The Lu sisters were wild with joy when they received this cultivation technique. This was especially so for Lu Tian'er. After losing the netherworld Taoist body, she always felt insecure and was afraid that she would drag her sister down. This technique was definitely a timely help. What are your plans now? Yin Zhuge asked the Lu sisters. We plan to find a place to go into seclusion and wait for the Overlord flower to advance. The Lu sisters had been discussing this matter for the past few days. The incident at the ruins had made them fully aware of the fact that it was pointless to go anywhere without strength. If it wasn't for Yin Zhuge protecting them, they would have died in the ruins long ago. It's good to go into seclusion and avoid the limelight. When Zishang was fighting for the treasure, he disguised himself as an evil old monster. When the people of the central state ran to find the evil old monster, Yin Zhuge was worried that the two sisters would be implicated. I heard from senior brother Wanli that the central state is very chaotic now. It's better for us to stay as far away as possible. Lu Meier nodded. At this time, Lu Tian'er thought of another matter. Oh right, senior brother Yin Jiu. Do you know that senior brother Wanli is the young master of the Myriad Treasure Tower? Turns out that he's the Myriad Treasure Tower's young master. I was wondering why a mere foundation establishment cultivator like him would have such a flashy outfit, even bringing out a sword spirit. Yin Zhuge came to a sudden realization. Senior brother Wanli is now in the left prefecture's workshop. Senior brother Yin Jiu, go find him and get a black card. In the future, you can buy things at the Myriad Treasure Tower at 30% off. The Lu sisters immediately got a black card the day they saw through his identity. Okay, I'll go find him now. After saying goodbye to the Lu sisters, Yin Zhuge walked toward the left prefecture's workshop. However, she wasn't in a hurry to find Wanli Mingxian. Instead, she started walking around the workshop with Zishang. She wanted to see if there were any suitable spirit herb seeds to plant in the demonic tripod. The space inside the demonic tripod was open now, but there were still very few things inside. They had to buy a lot. Zishang was still invisible next to Yin Zhuge, but he held her hand as they walked. This behavior was a bit annoying, but Yin Zhuge liked it, so Zishang accompanied her. Yin Zhuge felt that holding Zishang's hand was very romantic, so she had a lot of fun. Shopping was secondary. When they passed by a small stall, Zishang suddenly pulled her and said, "The couple 200 meters to the left is Jin Chuan and Siyue." Jin Chuan and Siyue? Yin Zhuge's eyes widened. She looked at the two unfamiliar figures in disbelief. One was an old man, and the other was a pretty granddaughter. If Zishang hadn't reminded her, she definitely wouldn't have recognized them. Why are these two here? Yin Zhuge had suspected their relationship when she was in Corpse Sect. Unfortunately, Jin Chuan covered it up very well. He never asked about Siyue again, so she couldn't find anything. Follow them, Zishang ordered softly. Jin Chuan and Siyue had high status in Corpse Sect. If she could get something on them, it would be very good for Yin Zhuge's position in Corpse Sect. Yin Zhuge thought so too, so she pulled Zishang along and quietly followed behind the two of them. Jin Chuan and Siyue were very vigilant. The two walked around the workshop until it was dark before they quietly left. They walked to the wasteland in the suburbs. Yin Zhuge and Zishang followed them quietly. Finally, they arrived at a dilapidated temple 200 miles away. At this time, there was a defensive restriction around the temple. Many talismans could be seen shining inside. Those are the talismans of Purple Cloud Sect, Zishang whispered to Yunjioga. Previously, when he and Yunjioga were killing Bloodthirsty Sect, they had interacted with the elite disciples of Purple Cloud Sect for a period of time. They were very familiar with their talismans. Why did Jin Chuan and Si Yue come here to meet Purple Cloud Sect disciples in the middle of the night? Yunjioga frowned. Corpse Sect and Purple Cloud Sect were mortal enemies. Let's go and see. Zishang pulled Yunjioga's hand and silently went to the top of the dilapidated temple. The light of the talismans couldn't stop the destruction of Zishang's demonic power. He stretched out his finger and poked a small round hole in the roof. They could clearly see what was inside. Yunjioga stuck close to Zishang and looked into the round hole. She was instantly shocked. Chapter 389. What did you see? Zishang looked at Yunjioga's round eyes and couldn't help but pull her ear. Help me see if that person is Nangong Li. Yunjioga pointed at the small round hole, worried that she had seen wrongly. It's him. He's already at the middle stage of Foundation Establishment realm. Zishang recognized him at a glance. When they swept through the Bloodthirsty Sect, Nangong Li was only at the peak stage of Qi refinement. He didn't expect his cultivation to improve so quickly. How did they get together? Jin Chuan, Si Yue, Nangong Li, these three didn't seem to match. Keep watching. Zishang hugged Yunjioga and started watching the show. Inside the ruined temple, Nangong Li was dressed in black, his handsome face cold, and he still had an unapproachable look. Jin Chuan and Si Yue stood in front of him and cupped their hands at the same time. Subordinate came late. Please forgive us, young master. No worries, Nangong Li said indifferently, then looked at Si Yue and said, You recovered your memory? Si Yue immediately knelt on one knee and said to Nangong Li guiltily, Subordinate is useless. Before going to Yin Corpse Sect, I was amnesiac and almost ruined young master's plan. Fortunately, big brother Jin Chuan helped me recover my memory in time. Please punish me, young master. Hearing this, Yunjioga was shocked again. She didn't expect Si Yue and Jin Chuan to be from the Purple Cloud Sect. No wonder Jin Chuan saved Si Yue. You didn't do it on purpose. Fortunately, it was a blessing in disguise, and you successfully infiltrated Yin Corpse Sect. You've been in Yin Corpse Sect for so long. Have you found the whereabouts of my aunt? Nangong Li asked again. It's confirmed that Miss Yu should be hidden by Cho Sun in the forbidden area. Si Yue replied cautiously. Hearing this, Yunjioga thought of the golden core girl she saw in Cho Sun's forbidden area. Could she be Nangong Li's aunt? Is my aunt still alive? Nangong Li's cold face revealed a nervous expression. Subordinate can't be sure. Si Yue shook her head hesitantly, then said, But I heard that Cho Sun has been looking for a treasure map to a mystic realm these years. A mystic realm treasure map. A fierce look flashed across Nangong Li's eyes as he said, Back then, my aunt discovered a secret realm, which is why she disappeared. From the looks of it, this treasure map should have something to do with Miss Yu, Si Yue said. It would be great if we could capture Cho Sun and interrogate him. Nangong Li said while gritting his teeth. Young master, Cho Sun has been concentrating on refining Yin corpses for the past few years. Although his cultivation has not completely recovered, he has refined quite a few ape corpse soldiers. I'm afraid it won't be easy to deal with them. Si Yue quickly advised. That's right, young master. We've already endured for so many years. There's no need to be impatient. Jin Chuan also advised. I understand. You guys continue to investigate, especially regarding the matter regarding the treasure map. You must investigate it thoroughly. Nangong Li quickly regained his stern appearance. I heard that the treasure map was divided into several parts. Now one of them is in the Fiend Corp's secret territory. According to Cho Sun, he wants to get that treasure map at all costs. Si Yue had heard this from Jin Yanwei. Fiend Corp's secret territory? Nangong Li seemed to have thought of something. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he instructed Jin Chuan and Si Yue. Since Cho Sun wants it, you guys help him. Once you've collected all the treasure maps, inform me. Yes. Jin Chuan and Si Yue nodded at the same time and left the broken temple. Nangongli stood in the same place for a while before taking out a black pill from his storage bag and putting it in his mouth. Then his body trembled, and his height actually increased by 4 inches. The muscles on his face moved again and again, finally turning into the appearance of Wanli Mingxian. Fuck. Yin Jioge looked at Nangongli's transformation and was completely stunned. He was even more shocked than when he found out that Jin Chuan and Si Yue were spies from the Purple Cloud sect. She had interacted with Nangongli before and knew that he was a very quiet and introverted person. Compared to the carefree Wanli Mingxian, it was the complete opposite of him. A person could play 2 roles and do it so naturally. What kind of acting skills did he have? Just as she was thinking about this, she saw that after Nangongli finished changing his face, he turned his head and grinned. Then he walked out in a carefree manner. Although there was no one around, he maintained the appearance of Wanli Mingxian very naturally and did not feel out of place at all. This person's soul is very strange. Zishang whispered into Yin Jioge's ear. There are 2 people in his body. Could Wanli Mingxian have been possessed by Nangongli? Yin Jioge asked hurriedly. It's not possession. The auras of these 2 souls are exactly the same. They're a bit like twins, but they're not. Zishang did not know how to describe this situation. Yin Jioge thought about it and could only explain it with a split personality. However, as the young master of the Purple Cloud sect and the 10,000 Treasure Tower, Nangongli was able to become an inner sect disciple of the Black Fiend sect. She did not know how he operated to allow a spiritualist and an evil cultivator to coexist. Yin Jioge's situation looked very similar to Nangongli's, but if her Dantian had not been destroyed and her cultivation had disappeared, she would not have been able to start cultivating in the Yin Corpse sect's outer sect. After all, Elder Emohua and Elder Baigu were not blind. However, this had nothing to do with Yin Jioge. She was more concerned about the Fiend Corpse Secret Realms treasure map. This was very likely to be the last piece, so she had to get it. Nangongli wanted to save her aunt, and she wanted the treasure map. The 2 of them could work together to deal with Cho Senator. However, it was definitely impossible to speak rashly, so she had to test him first. The next morning, Yin Jioge sent a communication talisman to Wanli Mingxian and said that she was in the Zhuozhou. Wanli Mingxian immediately replied, "Where are you? I'll go find you." "No need. I'll go to the 10,000 Treasure Tower to find you. I heard that you got a black card for the Lu sisters. You can't drag me down, right?" Yin Jioge replied in a joking tone. "No problem. I'll wait for junior brother Yin Jio's arrival at any time." Wanli Mingxian could not wait to arrange a time to meet with Yin Jioge. Yin Jioge went to the 10,000 Treasure Tower, and the shopkeeper immediately welcomed her into the tea room when he saw her. "Junior brother Yin Jio, I've been waiting for you at the teleportation formation for a long time. I was afraid that something would happen to you." Wanli Mingxian poured a cup of tea for her. "I'm fine. It's just that the teleportation location is a bit far from you guys." Yin Jioge used the perfunctory method that she used to brush off the Lu sisters. "You don't know, but the Zhongzhou is in a mess now. I heard that the demonic tripod in the ruins was stolen by 2 male cultivators. Old Lady Sher and Old Devil Wan are furious and are looking for them everywhere." Wanli Mingxuan's eyes had a trace of probing in them. After all, Yin Jioge came out last, so she might know something. "Do you know who those 2 male cultivators are?" Yin Jioge's eyes lit up, and she pretended to be interested. "You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."